and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, everyone, to the podcast number 3 about the game Nioh 2, the Complete Edition. My name is Alexander, also known as Andreevich.
And I'm Terrorlord here. Hi, everyone.
So in today's discussion, we are going to be talking over, as well as elaborating on such elements of this game, like how difficult Nioh 2, the Complete Edition, actually is. Is it the most difficult game ever? The progression system of this game, the RNG dilemma, how bad it's influencing certain elements, as well as endgame modes, its variety or the lack of its variety.
We are also going to discuss on how this game is very prolonged, unnecessarily prolonged when it comes to your progression through the game, to the point where to get to the end game, when you're going to finally get to the end game, you're already going to be drained out, only to find out that in the end game you also have to spend quite a lot of time to get to the under version of the end game, where most people are playing and most people are farming. So yeah, we are going to talk about that aspect as well.
True. I agree with what you have just said. Keep in mind that for those who are going to be watching this episode on YouTube, do know that if you are supporting us on Patreon, you can watch those episodes in advance, 1 week in advance, and most likely you'll have already the opportunity to watch next episode. Those of you who will be watching this exclusively on YouTube, do know that if you'll become a sponsor on Patreon, you will have this opportunity to watch 1 week in advance. Alright, with that being said, let's, again, just to better express ourselves and for you to better understand the context behind our words, you should know that both of us have completed this game from the very first difficulty, which is Dream of the Samurai, all the way up until Dream of the Nioh, completing most of the main missions, sub-missions, and Twilight missions. From my part, I have also completed the entirety of the Underworld and Depths included, and my brother completed half of the Underworld.
Yeah, I kind of personally stopped at like half of the Underworld, and not because of the fact that I struggled with not being able to progress any further, but because I just got tired of how repetitive this endgame system is. When you have pretty much like 140 stages, out of which you're going to have like 20 stages in total that are going to be repeating themselves 100%, including locations, the enemies, their position, their variety, like nothing is going to be changed. It's just going to be again and again seeing the same kind of stuff over and over again. It made me realize that I don't want to deal with that anymore, so basically I stopped there for that particular reason.
Well, I agree with you partially. For me, it wasn't necessarily the process of stopping rather than skipping over major half of the Underworld, the second half of it, as well as the some of the stages from the Depths. But we're gonna get to that point. At the beginning, we would like to share some of our words. This is not gonna be an elaborate, like, super detailed analytical talk, rather than we just gonna share our opinion like we did before, with some subjective and objective elements included. Speaking of, let's finally talk about how difficult this game actually is, whether it's like super punishing, the most difficult game ever existed, ever created, and let's debunk some of the myths. Okay, initially from I'm gonna share something that I have noticed myself when I was playing Nioh 2, as well as when I was playing Nioh 1. More so in Nioh 2 discussion. You see, when people are mentioning the difficulty aspect in general, you need to understand like certain features, right, that Nioh is presenting to the player. typically when people are analyzing the difficulty aspect, usually boils down to what elements is certain players considered to be more challenging, less, more of a challenge, less of a challenge. What do they struggle with? What options the game are offering to the player instead of only, oh, you need to just get good mechanically in order for you to pass through certain difficult parts, whether it's through cheesing those parts, through the various means of help that the game might have, and so on and so forth. And I can tell you straight up front, Nioh is not the most difficult game ever created, simply due to the fact that it offers plethora of elements for you to overcome certain challenges, certain difficult aspects, whether it be like combat, boss battles, progressing through the stages, enemies like enemy encounters, and so on and so forth. Like we have discussed previously on the previous podcasts, there was a mention from both me and my brother that certain weapons are like way stronger than the others, and when it comes to pure damage departments, nothing comes even close to the spellcasters in terms of how easy it is to nuke outright, eat and delete certain enemies and bosses. There's nothing comes close to the pure spellcasters. So in that regard, I do not think that Nioh 2 is both Nioh 2 and Nioh 1 is the most difficult game ever. What do you think?
If it is your first game in Souls-like genre, and your first game in that genre is Nioh 2, then yeah, you might have quite a lot of problems. Initially, and moving onwards, that are related to multiple things, be it difficulty, be it progression, be it even simply understanding like how the mechanics work and how to approach certain enemies and bosses. So yes, from partially like for newcomers to the Nioh series, it is going to be quite of a challenge to play through this game. However, if you have already played, say for example, Nioh 1, and you've played it a decent amount of time, maybe even beat the first difficulty and stuff like that, like I did. I personally, like, here's my take on it as a person who played like Souls games, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne I've played Nioh. I haven't really played Sekiro, but I've played like Nioh 1. I beat Nioh 1 only on first difficulty because I wasn't interested in going past that. And I've came into this game and I could say like I went through all of the difficulties that the game could provide me with. I tried Stone of Penance, I tried the Underworld and all that stuff, and I can say that it was way easier than Nioh 1. Like, even if you compare head-on Nioh 1 first difficulty, Nioh 2 first difficulty, Nioh 1 is way harder if you already have accumulated experience from the Nioh genre, because Nioh 1 and Nioh 2, although they do have like a difference between them when it comes to new mechanics and stuff, it is in a lot of cases similar to Nioh 1. To the point where if you knew how to approach certain enemies, then this is going to be pretty much the same here. Certain bosses, this is going to be pretty much same here. If you knew how to play with one weapon or the other weapon, you use the same weapon that you've used in previous game and you use it here, it's going to be easier for you, much easier, because older weapons received pretty much jack shit of an update, judging from, again, Maiko Sarigama, that received 0 stuff besides mastery skills and boss skills, which I never kind of used. But yeah, from overall, to sum it up, it's like, if it is your first game in that genre, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. If it isn't, you pretty much won't going to be like shouldn't have any sort of problems.
See, well, I agree with your points, but only partially. You said like you'll be having some problems if it is your first game. That's true, but what you have to understand that mechanically, from combat standpoint, and from the general mechanics of this game, yes, this game has a lot of BS, no doubt about it. Both first game and the second game doubles down on that. But you've mentioned Sekiro, like compared to BS level from Sekiro, where the game actually heavily restricts you into playing a certain way. Both Nioh 1 and Nioh 2 gives you plethora of options to overcome challenges that are in front of you. Like you again, this is the positive in my opinion. This is why I do not believe that even if this is, I'm gonna elaborate more about that. Even if this is your first game, and you struggle with certain elements, like let's say you are not really fond of melee system, you can try out magic, you're not really fond of one weapon, you can try out another weapon, you can try another set of armor, and so on and so forth. The powerful option are always there. Whereas something like in Sekiro, you don't. Likewise, to an extent, this is also present in Dark Souls 2. You don't like one type of build, of course. It's more restrictive in Dark Souls because you cannot freely respec your stats, whereas in Nioh 2 you can easily respec your stats, and up until a certain point you can change up practically everything that you have been leveling with before, which again creates this freedom of choice, freedom of options that you can effectively rely upon when you are progressing through difficult parts. That's number one. And number two, when it comes to, again, returning back to Sekiro, in Sekiro you did not have, even though on the surface Sekiro might have some other options that you can use, the effectiveness of those options are questionable, and in Sekiro everything boils down to you have to get good. Like, yes, that's the meme, and I don't agree with it 100% when it comes to everything from the mechanical standpoint, but yeah, in Sekiro you don't have any additional tools or effective tools or options to become powerful, at least for a limited amount of time, and take massive amounts of damage and do massive amounts of damage to the enemies or bosses. Nioh 2 has that, so it's a major positive aspect. Another thing that I'm going to say is, on the surface level, yes, Nioh 2 might, for an uninitiative from a newbie in this game, in the series, like Nioh 1 and Nioh 2, yes, it might seem overwhelming, but again, not necessarily from the standpoint of combat mechanics per se, like, or fight per se, especially if you're using certain weapon archetypes that doesn't have to do all of those fancy short combos, cancels, and so on and so forth, like Axe, and you're using a spin build, like, it's not a lot you can do in terms of creative ways of start your spinning, even though there is some degree of tactics and strategy.
Like Kusarigama, that pretty much has like 2 to 3 skills and one light combo from heavy stance.
True. I think it boils down mostly from the difficulty, in this sense, boils down mostly for you to understand what parameters do in general and how effective and how much you should accumulate one parameters over the others. That's the most difficult, maybe, aspect that this game will have, at least at the very beginning. Because the more you play it, the more you start to realize that there is only few selective traits or stats that you want to have on your gear and on your weapon, otherwise are outright useless to you in this case, or they are not worth it to invest from the very beginning all the way up until the very end. They are totally worthless, and it's like a fluff thing. So
yeah, the game will not going to explain much of that stuff to you, pretty much like it will not going to explain you like what sort of stats and to what point do you have to level up. Well, say for example, you want to increase the capacity of ninjutsu and your magic, and the game will not going to explain you what is the hard cap on that, how many you need to put so that like you reach the point where you no longer gain those points. You kind of have to like look it up if you don't know it, like from the first game.
True, true. I mean, yes, we both are not gonna deny that there will be a period of short adaptation from the very, I'd say like somewhere around like the first difficulty, and maybe to an extent on the third difficulty, where the pace of the combat is going to be slightly increased, and you will start encountering cursed enemies. But other than that, I don't say like you will be dying not necessarily because of you did not understood how this or that mechanics works. You know, like for instance, in MMORPG, you die because you didn't know about the mechanics of this boss. No, you're gonna be dying mostly because of the various degree of BS, as I can call it. For instance, as the light armor user, like let's say you like light armor, right? You have mastered dodge to the point where only certain combos or only certain attacks which covers tons of range can actually like outright kill you or send you to the quick scroll activation. You are not necessarily gonna bash yourself or blame yourself for the fact that you are being unskillful or the fact that this is too difficult. No, it's not difficult per se. It's outright broken / BS to the point where it should not function this way. But we have discussed it on the previous podcast when we talked about combat system, how certain things just works in favor of monsters and bosses more so than in favor of your character. So again, returning back to the whole like difficulty aspect, I do, even if this is your first game, from the positive side, yes, initially it may feel overwhelming and outright difficult, but to say that this is the most difficult, the most tough game that existed, and from the combat standpoint, no, that's not true at all, especially because the combat itself, it's not perfect.
Yep, exactly, and you also have to understand that taking a lot of time to like go through the first difficulty, go through all the missions that it provides you with, and basically taking your time there to understand how your particular weapon works, like what you're using and how you're using, getting accustomed to the basic mechanics, will going to have its benefit, because believe it or not, like it's only pretty much on the first difficulty, and on the last difficulty you will be spending majority of time, because the difficulties that are in between those are just a skip fast, about which we will going to talk a bit later.
True, true. So, in regards to, well, as we have mentioned about the comparisons, yes, the major bulk of the community, the major bulk of newbies who have started playing this game, we are not gonna deny this fact that at first it may feel overwhelming, but over time, once you start realizing what parameters and what mechanics as well as what stats you want to focus on, you quickly start to understand that it's not necessarily mechanically difficult, as it is more so RNG / BS degree of difficulty that you need to deal with if you want to progress. When it comes to challenge aspect, yes, it's present to an extent, but again, like my comparison would be like to Sekiro. I have already mentioned it. There are plethora of opportunities for you to switch from one playstyle over the other, and that's the positive thing, without really losing too much when it comes to effectiveness, if you're doing it before you have actually acquired your endgame gear.
Plus, you also have to remember the fact that, especially those who have played Nioh 1, Nioh 2 is not going to have... I believe it only has like 2 places where you fight against 2 quite easy bosses at the same time. Like, there
and
are
it's
no...
not really at the same time. There, one boss appears, one other one is already almost dead. So
no, there was a mission where technically 2 of them appear at the same time. Like, Gozuki Mizuki fight them
yeah, Golden
together.
Castle, right?
Yeah. But comparing this to Nioh 1, how much dual bosses it had in that game, how unfair those fights were against two bosses, how there was overabundance of bosses who used living weapons, which is basically all nearly permanent hyper armor, and they can do whatever they want, they are empowered, and they will going to kill you quite fast. Nioh 2 is not, like, nowhere near as close to the difficulty level and from Nioh 1. And I've played, like, pretty much, I've almost copied to a certain extent, like, playstyle that I've been using in Nioh 1. I've used the same light armor, the same Kusarigama, the same ninjutsu. I only added, like, magic, because I was too dumb to not use magic to begin with in Nioh 1, and I struggled because of that. I wanted to be a pure ninja with a weapon, but ended up understanding that I should have freaking used magic also, because magic actually gives you a lot advantage. Here in Nioh 2, it starts easier. It is overall easier. It has no, like, those crazy difficulty spikes. Even in the DLCs, it doesn't, like, it isn't to the point where you compare it to, oh, Nioh 1 main campaign, and then you go into the first DLC, and then you get your ass handed to you by pretty much the first boss and some of the initial enemies. No, in Nioh 2 doesn't have that. Doesn't have that at all.
Hey, I actually felt like, I think you felt this as well, that some of the monsters that you have encountered in Nioh 1 in DLCs, they were present in the early areas of the main campaign, yet their strength, their power level was way more diminished, like, compared to Nioh 1. Haven't you felt that?
A little bit. Like, overall, my perspective was, it's kind of hard for me to justify it from other person's viewpoint, but it's from my personal speaking. Like, I cannot say that this game is something like, oh my god, it's so hard. Like, no, like, even on the higher difficulties, it's not like I was sitting like hours and hours thinking like, oh, I cannot beat this boss, which I had those things in Nioh 1, almost to the point where I was like, I was thinking like, I was going to rage quit against this boss with like Phoenix summon that he had. I legit thought I want to rage quit Nioh 1 at that point. Nioh 2, I didn't have that when it comes to like how difficult quote-unquote this game was. I didn't have much problems with it.
Yeah, like, true. Again, as we have said, we're just beating on the dead bush at this point, like, talking about the same thing over and over. We're gonna just conclude this topic on saying that, yes, this game, it's not the most difficult of those games that we have played from mechanical point of view when it comes to combat and spellcasting, both using it and fighting against it. There is some degree where you can develop your skills, but it's more so a matter of how effectively and how fast you can become more powerful than the enemies and use most devastating skills and or weapons plus moves from that to overcome certain challenge. Same thing goes for bosses. Yes, you can, here's the thing, you can memorize their moveset, and granted, like, objectively it will make it way better when you're gonna do this either over time or when you're just gonna intentionally die over and over again certain boss just to memorize the patterns. But it's not needed, like, compared to Sekiro, where it's actually required on major bulk of the bosses and enemies. Here it's not needed. Like, here you can power through it even if you're playing with light, even if you're using light armor, you can power through it, you can outright abuse certain elements to gain a victory.
Yeah, when we will going to discuss difficulty levels, like those new game pluses, we will going to also mention, like, there is a way to make it, like, if you will think that yeah, the game is kind of easy. There is a way, a very shitty way to increase the difficulty of the game, and which is, by the way, the only way how the game is going to be increased in
One
difficulty.
of the only ways.
Well, pretty much like from the how the game increases it and how you can increase it. It's one of those like only ways how you can do this is by increasing HP, attack power, and defense
all stats of the enemies.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it later. Right now, I wanna switch over to the next topic, and that is progression through the game. How rewarding it is to do all the content in the game, how necessary it is per se if you wanna go from the very first difficulty to the very end. How punishing or not punishing it is to skip over major bulk of the content, as well as how rewarding it is to skip it. So let's start from the very beginning, again, like just sharing our viewpoints. I personally find, like, I have completed on, I can say outright, like 100% all the missions only on first difficulty, which is Dream of the Samurai. That includes, like, the main quest, sub-missions, Twilight missions. On every on every other difficulty, when I was going through it, I only did the process of you need to complete 10 missions, doesn't matter which ones, doesn't matter in what kind of regions you're gonna do them. You need to beat 10 missions, then you will unlock the final one, which is in the Eye of the Beholder. You go there, you kill Takimaru, and then you can unlock the next difficulty. That's pretty much it. I never stop just to beat all the other content that the next difficulty will the next difficulty have been offering to me. The only exception would be like one case when I needed to farm a specific not ethereal, a specific like green is, I believe, is divine green set, Master Swordsman heavy set from the Dojo Mission Master. I did it on the Dream of the Demon, I believe, and that's only if I did it for the mechanical standpoint, from the mechanical viewpoint, because when you acquire set this oh, wait a second, I take that back. I farmed the recipe from him, because when you farm the recipe and when you craft it from the blacksmith, it will have reduced stat requirement for you to wear. So just for the sake of min-maxing, that's the only stuff that I did when I stack for one. It's not really difficulty. Like, I stuck for one mission for extra hour or so. I believe it took me like 40 minutes when the blueprint eventually dropped. For every piece of equipment that I need, and yeah, like, that's pretty much it. The game itself wasn't too punishing in that regard for my from my perspective. What do I mean by that? When I was going from the one difficulty to the other, I struggled a bit only on the first couple of missions, up until the point where I have gained access to new gear and I start soul matching it. I start getting stronger bit by bit, even though the level requirement was still 80 to more than 100 levels above my current character level. There was nothing severely punishing or outright impossible to beat, and once you get your hands on in this game, I believe to an extent in the first game too, like, once you get your hands on certain gear, certain parts of equipment, and you start soul matching it, it's gonna be way easier for you to go through those missions, whereas, like, if you were to try and farm it, like, it's gonna be way faster too, from the very beginning all the way till the end. But you also have to keep in mind one thing we forgot to mention is we have played the complete edition, so for us, every piece of content was already available, like, after we have beaten the first difficulty, including first difficulty with DLCs, including those newer ones that unlocks after you've completed, like, Dream of the Samurai. Like, we didn't have to wait for a couple of months or half a year before the release of the new DLC with new difficulties. So that's that. And from my perspective, like, what do I recommend, like, if you are a player who doesn't really want to waste your time per se to complete everything on every difficulty. I don't know whether there is an achievement for this or not, but if you want to pursue effectiveness and efficiency and you want to save your time, there is nothing wrong. That's the positive and negative side of things, in my opinion. There is nothing wrong to skip most part of the content and just continue going through continue accessing more challenging parts of the game quicker, so that you will have your power spikes earlier than usual. That's number one. You will level up your stats faster. Number two, you will unlock the access to certain sets which are only available at the last difficulties, like Dream of the Wise, Dream of the Nioh, including Underworld and Depths. And you won't have to experience the boredom of going through the same freaking maps, defeating the slightly changed enemies like over and over again for the 5 difficulties straight, like excluding the first one. Like, keep in mind you also have like 140 something floors when it comes to Underworld and Depths. So my recommendation would be, outside of the first difficulty, just do the process that both I and my brother was doing. Complete 10 missions in in whatever order you prefer, whatever missions you prefer. Then go into the Eye of the Beholder, kill Atakimaru, and then go straight to the next difficulty. Like, only spend your time on the first couple of missions inside the first region, just to get your hands on more powerful gear. But you don't need to max it out. You know what I mean? Like, don't need to max it out. And if you also want to have an ability to craft a gear with reduced stat requirement, you may also want to farm Dojo Mission Boss before he'll finally drop a recipe. That's pretty much it. Why did I also mention that this is both like the positive and negative thing? Well, this is the positive thing for this is the positive for 2 reasons. First of all, it's gonna value the time of those players who don't want to spend too much of it sitting or going through slowly but surely every individual region. That's number one. And number two, because of how long this game is, how necessarily like prolonged and long this game is, this inclusion, this option that allows you to spare your time and just go to the content that you want, that's the positive side of things from my point of view.
Yeah, keep in mind also,
you can share your experience too and add something from your side.
So basically, what you have to remember is also the fact that when it comes to progression through those difficulties, why do you not have to spend time in those other difficulties as much? Just go past them, move onwards. Even if the level deficit is going to be like 200 levels in between you and the mission level requirement, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because enemies and bosses are kind of Dream of the Demon, maybe, but up until you actually kind of get gear from those couple of initial stages, and yes, like getting gear there could have been easier if they didn't completely kill the idea of killing Revenants, providing you gear to begin with. Like, because, you know, in first difficulty, when you kill Revenants, one of the fastest way to get some of the better loot is to kill those high-level Revenants and get gear from them. Well, after first difficulty, forget about it. Like, forget about that, because after first difficulty, what they will going to give you, a shitty crafting item that you don't, for the most of the time. Like, here's also my take on one of the aspects that we didn't cover yet. The crafting in this game is so fucking shit. Like, there are bajillions of crafting items, bajillions of stuff that you can craft, but most of the time you don't even need that. You don't need that. I didn't need that on first difficulty, I didn't need that on last difficulty, I didn't need blacksmith, besides like changing stats and adding like pluses to gear and like shifting scale on gear, I didn't need anything else from blacksmith. Like I remember like I on the first difficulty I've crafted myself a some kind of set, and I like after 1 hour or so I completely changed it to another one that dropped randomly from revenants and enemies, and I'm like, why then crafting keys in this game? It's just for shits and giggles. And speaking about like, say you have completed, like, my advice would be like complete everything that you can on difficulty number 1, like everything that you can, because believe it or not, up until difficulty number 5 you're not going to ever need to dive that deep. Then as you complete like everything, you've completed all main missions, side missions. Forget about Twilight missions as well. I did like 2 of those. I saw that there is no point in that again because I don't see the point.
You did 2 of those on higher difficulties or on first difficulty?
On higher difficulties, I did 0 of Twilight missions, and I was still okay. Like, here's the point. Like, wow, what was the purpose of Twilight missions? I don't know, but technically, like, what you do is you complete all the main and side quests, then you jump on the next difficulty, complete like those 10 missions. What I did, and I always did this in the following order, like I completed first region entirely, then on the second region I completed everything till like I was completing missions till I get a notice that the act with the final mission has been given to me. I went into that act, I've completed that mission, unlocked new difficulty, rinse and repeat, all the way till I got to difficulty number 5. I struggled a little bit, I believe, on Dream of the Demon, because there is like this gap between everything is so fucking fat when it comes to how much HP and defense it has, and you like, because you were skipping, you don't have the proper gear, but then again, it is fat, but it's still, like, as a light armor user, everything was killing me quite fast to begin with, and nothing has changed. Like, everything is still going to kill me quite fast. It's just like I have to bash through that fat wall, through those bosses, through Takimaru. I fucking hate Takimaru because of how shitty design this boss is, and the fact that if you don't have sake or something to get rid of his, like, not allow him to cast on you those debuffs, it's going to be fucking annoying to fight with this abomination. So basically, rinse and repeat that all the way to difficulty number 5, and in difficulty number 5 you start to farm up, you start to get the plus gear, orange gear, you start getting orange gear from difficulty number 4, which I technically kind of recommend you do it. Only get it and don't don't overdo it. Just get some orange gear on you, progress to difficulty number 5, and get your plus orange equipment, because this plus orange equipment is technically the best. It's the best in the game that the game has provided you with. And also, if you're playing and you're looking for like a build, and you see a build, and the build has graces, open the wiki and actually check where exactly does those graces drop, because most of the powerful graces only drop on difficulty number 5. Well, I'm excluding those graces that are for ninjutsu or mage build, because ninjutsu build you can create it in magic build like on difficulty number 1, and it will carry you over to pretty much through the rest of the stuff, like including difficulty number 5 and all that stuff. It just gets better over time. But say for example like Purity, I was playing with Purity build. You know where the grace is for the Purity? The grace for the Purity is actually in the Dream of the Nioh, which is the final difficulty. And there are also graces that only drop in the endgame mode. So you kind of have to understand like what build are you going with. Even if you don't go by the build, just understand where your grace is, because other grace for the purity is the shitty stuff for versatility and for defense, which is not going to work with something like Kusarigama, because the Kusarigama skills are shit and slow, and you're not going to be able to combine them. Much like with Dex, like you don't see someone with Kusarigama just hopping through, changing like stances, throwing this skill and this skill and this skill. Yeah, throw 2 skills and you are dead because they are freaking slow. But anyway, so you go through all of those difficulties as the way I told you, and you should not have any problems whatsoever. Like, it's kind of easy with some ups and downs in certain bosses, but this is something that's you kind of have to like move through it. You kind of have to like get good at it, and you kind of have to like, when you get good, and you beat the bosses that you have problems with. There's no like skip stuff, although you can summon. You see those blue graves like in the showcase here, like you see the blue graves, you can summon revenants to help you. I haven't summoned revenants throughout the entire game actually. I haven't even touched those things. I haven't touched multiplayer. I consider multiplayer to be a piece of shit game mode, so like screw that. I didn't need to use those revenants, but you have, if you cannot overpower the boss by yourself, summon a revenant, kill the boss, progress onwards, and slowly you're going to get to the point where you have to be like, and you have to be on the difficulty number 5, like, because they didn't update all the difficulties with the release of new DLC content, and they became super outdated. You don't have to waste time there because you're not going to. Even if you're going to waste time on those difficulties, on the next difficulty, pretty much immediately you're going to get better gear that is going to be much better than the stuff that you worked for like hundreds of hours. So why waste time in one place when you can waste 10 times more time in last place, where there is only best in slot gear, like dropping with shitty stats and stuff.
Yeah, but it's I agree with you, but I think it's a matter of questionable game design, I'd say, when it comes to player progression. I cannot say it's outright bad, because of the reasons I've mentioned before. Those who value those that value their time, and those that want to quickly get to the power spikes standpoint without wasting
at this point,
without wasting major time on certain powers, yes, they can go there. But my problem with it, that's the subjective opinion that I want to share about why do I think it's negative from my point of view. You see, like, Nioh 2 is the game that uses multiple elements. Like, there's an action RPG element, there's an element slasher element, there's also an element of Souls-like to an extent. Maybe I'm wrong, but please name me one game, like, in the comment section, or do you know of one game that actually not punishes a player if he rushes it for the first time? We're not talking about like second, third, fourth, fifth, and other consecutive playthroughs. For if you're going through the game for the first time, you want to explore and kill all the possible monsters and bosses that you will have a better understanding of not only the mechanics of this game, but also of how like to progress through the certain points with maximum efficiency. My examples would be like in the games that we have played in the past. For instance, in Grim Dawn, if you're gonna skip, if this is your first playthrough and you are planning to skip through most parts, like let's say of the second difficulty, you know what will happen on the third difficulty? You will not have necessary blueprints. Your character and your build that you will probably trying to plan will be crap. Everything will gonna destroy you, and you won't have those devotions, you know, the passive and active abilities that severely boost your parameters of your character. So you will have to get back to the second difficulty if you're playing by yourself, at least if you're not using any cheat engines and so on and so forth. Farm there, unlock everything that you need so that it will be so that it will be manageable. I'm not saying super easy, it will be manageable to go through the third difficulty. Same thing I can say about Last Epoch Beta, even though it's a game that's still in beta. When it comes to Monolith, that's endgame mode. You cannot rush to the Monolith. If you have an incomplete build yet, you want to take your time. You're gonna slowly go from one area to another area, acquiring all the necessary blueprints, slowly but surely build your character. You cannot rush through it because with the same way that you could do in Nioh, like you skip like 3 to 4 zones, and the 5th zone will drop everything and more that the previous zones did not offer. So you know it doesn't work like that way. And as far as I'm aware, even in those action RPGs that we have played in the past, like hack and slash RPGs like Diablo 3 or Diablo 2 or Sacred, if those games that have multiple difficulties as a way of like progressing from one point to another, if you are gonna rush through it, you better have a pretty strong party or a character to begin with, or you better prepare to cheese some of the encounters, because you will not be able to go through all the difficulties and challenges legit. Whereas in Nioh, yeah, it's perfectly possible, but this is why, in my opinion, it's both like the good and bad thing. But you may agree or disagree. Like it's your choice. But I also forgot to mention like another feature that I wanted to discuss when we were talking about like the difficulty progression. You have mentioned Dream of the Demon, and I wanted to also quickly elaborate on the fact how you can manipulate difficulty in your favor. What do I mean by that? Well, we talked about how you can play like a spellcaster, we talked about how you can use one weapon that's more powerful than the other, and so on and so forth. We forgot to mention about debuffs. 2 of the most powerful debuffs that you can use from the very beginning of the game are Slot and Lighting. Lighting acts pretty much the same as Slot, so it's like discount lighting, whatever. But they are, as far as I'm aware, they are stackable between each other, even in the
you can put Slot and Lightning, and what is more important to understand, they never going to lose their value, as they were super powerful on first difficulty, they will going to be super powerful on less difficulty.
To an extent, they do lose their value, but only if we're talking about time, the duration of those debuffs. On the higher difficulties, the duration of those debuffs are lessened or shortened severely compared to the lower difficulties, but nonetheless, the effect that it provides against both monsters and bosses, it's so beneficial to the point where you can outright like the encounters of it become so laughable to the point where it's super easy to go through it all. I mean, like even that's the one of the thing that I should have mentioned when we were talking about the very first difficulty and the difficulty aspect in general. Like, you can outright, the first difficulty becomes a joke if you're using Slot Talisman from the very beginning. Like, it's a freaking joke, like everything, and again, it's not a problem. Some, like other fanboys or retards outright are saying, oh, you are using Slot, and then you're saying that this boss or this encounter is easy, try to play without Slot. Okay, like, I have played, first of all, that's not my problem that I'm using the base, and yes, Slot is the base spellcasting mechanic. It's not like super secret ultimate spell that unlocks only after you will kill certain bosses in order or visit super secret areas. It's a freaking base mechanic, that's number one. And number two, that's not my problem that game developers, instead of designing, they could have easily went over it. If you have used Slot multiple times in a row, the strength, the potency of this debuff, as well as its duration, could have been shortened even on the first difficulty. Like, they already has it on higher difficulties, so why not implement it on the first difficulty? Beats me, that, like, that's their problem. And even though, like, okay, like, let's say the slow makes it very easy for you, like, it's too easy, you want to go without. Sure, there's lighting. Okay, even with lighting it's easy. Well, there's a spell casting, or there is the corruption element, corruption debuff. Like, if you stack multiple elements, suddenly the health bars. I'm referring to first difficulty more so. The health and key pool of the enemies will melt in seconds. And it's again like that's not super hard to do at all. Like you just need to have two elements to go through it.
We kind of have to address this thing that we are now speaking about difficulty from a standpoint not of a pro players, but just a casual players.
General players like
that are not stupid to just go by and like say for example like you have been playing various games of particular genres, or you have played action RPGs, and you know like that you are looking for something strong, you are looking for like you know how to use various options, and you implement all of your knowledge accumulated in other games here. Say for example like you see, oh, I see this powerful debuff, it is actually kind of potent, like let me actually use it, like let me actually use it, let me take lightning with me, let me take later on like slot with me, but even like lightning if someone considers that to be like overpowered and so on. Like I grab it, I put it on my character, I use it. Oh, I'm suddenly like having easier time. No shit. Like I am judging difficulty from a standpoint like I know how to play games normally. What I mean by normally is by using various tools that the game provides me. The game provides me with giant fucking skill tree in both magic and ninjutsu. Why the fuck would I not just wiggle around to find something powerful out of that many options? Like, or what? Or do I need to be like another dumbass who is just like, it's not like, oh, this boss is weak against purity, don't you fucking dare use purity and him go use something he is invulnerable to, or this enemy is invulnerable to water, you have a full water build? And the guy is telling you like, wow, big brain using water against waterproof enemy. Yeah, Sherlock. Hello, like, do you understand that you don't switch in this game built on the fly? That's idiocy. Like, what do you want me? Oh, there is this bird boss. He is invulnerable to like purity, he's invulnerable to status effects, and I'm using purity, right? Oh, you want me to, on the fly, change everything, get myself corruption build from my ass, like get another grace, get another set, get another weapon, get everything just to fight against that boss? Are you fucking idiot?
Nobody does that.
Nobody does that except this small niche. That niche that we're going to tell you, you are doing everything wrong. The game is too easy for you, don't use this. The game is too easy for you still. Apply Stone of Penance, increase the damage and attack so that you will die from one hit and the boss takes million hits. This is not how you're supposed to play the game. If you play the game normally, that's my take on it. If you play the game normally and you already had like knowledge on how to play games like similar to this, of course you're not going to say that this game is, oh my fucking god, this is so fucking tough, I cannot beat this first boss and stuff like this. No, you're not going to say that. And don't listen to those who are going to tell you, like, you killed this boss so easy because you've been using an axe. Dude, my main weapon is a fucking axe. I want to beat this game with an axe. What's your fucking problem? Why are you telling me that, oh, this boss is easy because I was using axe? Most of humanoid enemies are so bad against using Kusarigama because you can cheese them. Yes, I fucking can, because your fucking system of face-to-face combat, especially Kusarigama against humanoid enemies, is a fucking piece of shit. What, I have to suffer through bad startups, bad hitboxes, enemies who don't respect my turn, enemies having hyper armor that I can barely see, me not having legit ways to interrupt my combos when I do them. You want me to not use cheese tactics, even though I have already mentioned all of the stuff that works against me? No, if developers didn't implement the system that would complement my playstyle, then I will fucking use something that will going to work in the situation. I'm not just gonna bash like a retard on the wall, this has to work. Half hour later, this has to work. 2 days later, and he still bashes his head and trying to do the same. here's my take on it.
Yeah, like, sure. And ironically enough, like, we have mentioned, like, the, what you call them, like, the slot and lighting debuff as well as the corruption, but first difficulty can be completely, like, again, it could be completely a joke if you're using a ranged weapon, like ninjutsu weapons, like kunai and shurikens, and destroying...
yeah, basically, grab yourself
right.
flying cattle set and you're going to kill bosses with, like, 2-3 seconds of just throwing them with kunais.
So, again, like, this difficulty is only as difficult as you would allow it to be, excluding BS elements, if you are using the strongest tools, if you are a smart player, if you're using the strongest, most of the, not all, most of the strongest tools at your disposal, you will have a way easier time even progressing and outright simply playing through this game. That's period. That's the undeniable fact. When it comes, returning back to the progression, like the whole point that we were trying to also share to you about the rushing aspect, about the fact that it's not worth it to play through every single... Right now, it's not worth it. Maybe in the days when you were waiting for the DLCs to come out with new difficulties,
well, you didn't have something like ahead of you, so this is why you were stuck in, like, I have to repeat the cycle all over again.
Yeah, sure, but you know what? It's gonna... from my point, maybe I'm wrong, but from my point, it could have been even easier, because you would have been way more over-leveled back in the day before like you have completed like everything, and you already like maxed out level, maxed out gear. You're waiting for the new difficulty, waiting for the new DLC with the difficulty comes out, and suddenly everything is easy.
Well, it's easier, but at the same time, it's also kind of like it's even longer, because it forces you to like. You will going to be fucking annoyed and bored to hell when you are going to see those stages and the same enemies, like bosses, over and over again in the late game. Imagine like playing all of the difficulties and seeing again those stages and enemies again in the late game. You're going to see that a lot also.
True, but another aspect that we could elaborate on, another undeniable fact, that once you, the amount of the new stuff that each and individual difficulty provides to the player, it's way, it's beneficial for the sake of variety compared to regular like Souls game where all it does like it increases like the stats of the enemies. We're talking about new sets, new moves, new enemy patterns and attacks, although I personally believe it could have better. I'm gonna mention it at the end game.
New moves.
Yes, new moves, both for regular monsters and for bosses. Also, those sets, those graces that can only be unlocked on the very last difficulties, and so on and so forth. So this is an undeniable fact that the amount of the new stuff, and it's a positive, it's the positive step in the right direction, in my opinion. However, due to the fact that it's being stretched out, like to the point that it has like 5 difficulties, in my personal opinion, it would have been way more cooler and beneficial to only have like an outright faster and objectively rewarding if the game would have had 3 difficulties. Like, can you imagine if you only had like 3 difficulties, but the amount of new stuff that you are unlocking and the motivation, especially to complete those the campaign, as well as going through those missions, even though they would be the same, but because of all of the new stuff that they are gonna give to you, it would have been more rewarding, in my opinion. But nonetheless, right now it is what it is. Returning back to the whole progression, we should also mention one of the, well, 2 topics that goes hand in hand together: how you are gonna be progressing through the game, or from what elements your character is gonna become much more stronger than he was before. That includes acquirement of your equipment, armor and weapon, finding necessary stats or tempering necessary stats on armor and weapon, as well as increasing outright your general standpoints and finding scrolls. Now, out of all of this, I'd say the one of the increase of your stats, as well as, how do you call that, remodeling the stats on your weapon so that it starts to scale from the stats that you want. That's the most easiest and non-RNG dependent way from which you can become stronger. We are slowly but surely like going through introducing you to the RNG dilemma.
RNG hell.
RNG hell in this game. Like, the most, and again, I am gonna mention this because one of the members from the Discord server actually mentioned this, but my brother doesn't know about that. Apparently, you could not remodel your, what you call it, you cannot remodel your stats from which your weapon is gonna be scaling from on the first game. So it was even more RNG dependent, and on top of that, you could not actually temper transferred effects on the weapon. You actually have to farm them, again relying on the RNG in the first Nioh game. So yeah, it is 2 steps in the right direction, but as we have mentioned with combat, like 2 steps forward, 5 steps back.
I still want to know why I couldn't change one stat for another.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it too. So slowly but surely we are approaching the RNG dilemma. Again, stats, it's, as well as the remodeling of your weapon, is the easiest and the most effective solution to boost your damage. Slowly afterwards comes the acquirement of your equipment, your main stat and your gray stat. Speaking of main stat, there's nothing too fancy about it unless you're using build that utilizes 2 gray sets. You will have a much easier time to get your hands on the set that you want initially. I'm talking about like something like Master Sword, every type of set that doesn't have a word grace attached to them. It's way easier to procure them, to buy them, to outright craft or farm them, whatever the case it might be for you. It's not gonna be problematic to finally get them. So the process of you acquiring them, it's not an RNG dependent element. What is dependent is what kind of parameters you will have on them. Because, believe it or not, this game, even though it introduces, it has a lot of action RPG elements like stats, and some of the stats are outright garbage. We're gonna also mention some of them later. You cannot manually, and that's the huge point, you cannot manually have whatever you want on an item. There is always a matter of RNG, what exactly is going to roll on each and every individual equipment in terms of stats. You might say, well, why is that so important, and is it gonna be a huge problem moving later on to the most challenging content like Endgame? I can say to you that it is even if the end game could be beaten without you manually min-maxing every living hell out of your equipment, but it is still worth to mention that it is a problem. Why? Because in every other RNG where you have some elements, every other action RPG and hack and slash RPG, and even MMORPG, where you have a gear and a person can manipulate in one way, shape, or form the parameters on gear, this person can select or tune in for his particular setup certain stuff that he or she wants. Like, let's say he's using physical build, he probably wants to have everything connected with improving physical damage against an enemy or bosses, like increased flat attack, increased percentage attack, and so on and so forth. But no, Nioh, oh yeah, like in Nioh, it's always unique. Like, the strongest stuff, the strongest parameters are always, when it comes to defense, offense, or utility, are always RNG dependent. Like, you don't have any control over it, and it sucks. Like, it objectively sucks, it subjectively sucks. Like, why a player cannot manipulate or tune in those values, I personally do not know. Somebody may say, oh, that's because developers want to prevent people from creating one-shot builds, and to that I say that's BS. First of all, if a person wants to create a one-shot build, he will create it no matter what. He will not listen to any of it. He will use cheat engine, whatever the case it might be, just to increase the living hell out of his attack power or spellcasting power and annihilate everything. That's number one. And number two, this is not justifying the RNG element. The RNG element in Nioh 2 is broken beyond. It's the worst thing that I have never seen the degree of RNG elements in any other game in my life that had RPG elements. Not in a single MMO game, not in a single player game, and that's saying something in my opinion.
I personally now play, if you know that browser mobile game Grand Blue Fantasy, which is by pretty much everyone considered to be the most grindy-ish, random-ish game. And let me tell you, I have way easier time farming there something and getting something that I want, and getting something that I would want in this game. So imagine this situation. So you have an item. The item has normally this item has I don't know, 5% for you to get. In some other game. Let's say for example Diablo 2. You want that item, right? It's so good, it will going to fit your build and stuff like that. And you farm for it. You farm for it for a long time. And you finally get it. Well, normally it comes with predetermined stats.
True, and
It comes with predetermined stats, but we attach neo-degenerate logic here. Every item can have any random set of stats, and by random set of stats, I mean all of the stats can be random. All! It has this item had say for example, had 7 stats. And you were playing a barbarian, so it had to have strength, vitality, damage, life on hit and stuff like that. I'm just bringing those up, something that would benefit a barbarian, something to plus his mandatory skills, like a whirlwind or something like that. No, if we attach neo-logic in here, you're going to have there intelligence, dexterity, plus to blizzard, mana regen, you are going to have all of that shit, but we also add another shit on top of that already shit mechanic. You're going to have locked stats, such as oh, well then I'm going to remove this stat. No, wait. So this intelligence stat is locked, you cannot remove it. This say for example, mana regen stat is transferable. So what also also the star effect that you got, which is an increased base effect, increased version of the base effect is the star effect, and the star effect that you get is for +2 blizzard skill. While you also you still play barbarian. I think I am showcasing properly some of the degrees of the Nioh 2 RNG roulette. Throw the dice, after farming for this item for so long, throw the dice. Once, it will going to go into the first circle of the RNG hell. It spins, lands on the locked stat. What kind of locked stat is that? Spin. It's not for you, sorry boy. We go onwards. How many star effects do we have? Spin. Oh, we have 2. What kind of stats do we have? Oh, we have defense on the character when you don't want defense.
You say star effects, but you forgot to talk about the amount of star effects are also random. You can have from 0 to 3 star effects, so it's not always you're gonna get 3 star effects per item. And you also forgot to mention...
can it be, if you're fishing for graces, that's oh, but will it be my grace? Yeah, I got everything, and most of the things that I want, and here's the grace part, and here's the grace part, and here is a grace that is not for me, yeah, or here's everything aligned perfectly, almost everything, but the locked stat is bad, or here is good locked stat, but here is a star effect on defense, and when you change the star effect you can change the star effect in the blacksmith, but it will going to change to the blacksmith's base effects Also, there is like...
Not only star effects, but rare effects like blues or purple ones, they are changing most of the time to the base, to the white ones, or sometimes to the blue ones.
So basically, like, you have that, but you also have something more attached than that, like some extra flavor of some kind, which is... let me actually think what it is. This is something called like transferable effects, and the effect, and besides that, there's also one huge problem.
But you forgot, not just transferable effects, but the arrow has to be pointed out on the star, because if you just have regular arrow, it won't gonna allow you to change, to interchange those transferable effects with your eyes.
Yeah, also the fact is that there is also this particular point, which is the game doesn't explain you. Why can you not? Like, I had on one of my like last streams, I wanted to change. I got an interesting transferable effect. I wanted to put it in my Kusarigama. I had this grand plan. For like 2 hours, I've been trying to figure out how the fuck would I put this stat instead of my stat. I had skill damage. I wanted to change the skill damage to bonus from dexterity.
Bonus heart, I believe you had.
Bonus dexterity I had. I wanted to change one for another. I can't. For some other weapons I can. For some other weapons I cannot. For some stuff I can. For some other stuff I cannot. The game doesn't tell me anything. I get no hints. Viewers are telling me basically, oh, it is done so that people will not create one-shot builds. I don't give a fuck about one-shot builds. I really don't give a fuck about any sort of one-shot build. I don't want to hear bullshit trying to justify me why the game doesn't tell me why this stat cannot go with this stat. I don't want to open wiki or something like this. You have wall of text in the game and a button option to show you more information, and you still can fucking tell me the most basic thing. Why one stat cannot be changed for another. This is fucking idiocy. Even the blacksmith, if you don't know that if you had this stat, then you cannot have a chance to roll the other stat, you will be sitting there like a retard trying to roll till you will going to get out of resources, but you'll still not going to get that stat, because apparently what ended up happening is that you actually had one stat that conflicts with the other stat. The game doesn't tell you jack shit, it doesn't give you any hint, and you're like sitting there like, okay, I kinda get it, oh, but I don't get it, oh, but now maybe I get it, maybe I change this stat, and then you're going to change like most of your stat, and you're going to ruin your equipment. And turns out, well, there was this, it was easy, but the game doesn't explain you, and you have to like look at this information. Like, we live in a 2021 now. Yeah, live in a 2021. This is their sequel for Nioh 1. And I fucking see how shitty this is. And I'm like, I've played Lion Age, Moo Game, MMORPG. I've played World of Warcraft. I played Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 3, Path of Exile, Rebels. I've played so many fucking games. So many fucking games. And comparing to this, I can't. I was like, this is just
again,
RNG.
we are on the topic on RNG.
Hell, this is stupid. I want an item. Like, why is it that on the items you get all sorts of random jumbo shit? If it's heavy armor, you can still get ninjutsu. Why the fuck can you still get ninjutsu power and ninjutsu, untouched ninjutsu? Who the fuck knows? Why the fuck I get magic on ninja items? Why? Again, like, can this game have less of an RNG? Like, I want to see, like, if it's a heavy armor, you put there, like, probability of acquiring defense and other stats that would benefit heavy armor should be more, way more, or maybe even like 100% on the heavy armor. There's no reason to give me on the light armor. You give me block chance, you give me some kind of shit like resistances, defense, HP. Like even the HP stat is complete shit if you play on the light armor. If it's 7k HP, if it's 6k HP, you're still going to die to 2 hits, so it doesn't even matter. Like, this randomness they just put, like, there is this wide pool from which the game will going to decide which shit to throw in your face, and maybe some of that shit is not going to stink. Maybe underneath all that shit, like, you'll be standing all covered in shit and mud, and oh, something shining in my eye. Oh, wait. Oh, I got the star effect. Yeah, boy. Cow turns the star effect the other side. Oh, it's star effect for defense. Oh, shit. And goes into that pile of shit again. Like, trying to get, like... It's not that items are dropping, like, rarely. They drop with masses. Like, you can get, like...
What was the point?
You can get like green stats on your accessories, so that you're going to have a chance to acquire, like if you wear, say for example, I was wearing Hayabusa set, probability of Hayabusa set items dropping to me would be higher, but who the fuck cares if 90%, more than 90, 95, 96% of the time I couldn't change 2 items in my gear, 2 items. I couldn't change practically like anything for 3 or 4 streams in a row. Like, those are 3 or 4 streams for 4 hours, and I'm like, well, can I fucking get it? Like, I am tired of just throwing everything into my stash for like later on use, but then again I never use them anyway, so I'm like, maybe I'll need that. I'm just throwing there everything. I'm just throwing there. Oh, whoa. Then there is like 10 Hayabusa helmets, like 10 fucking gloves, 15 boots, 15 armors, and everything is fucking shit compared to mine. I can't even fucking progress anymore, because all my progress is locked to me having to deal with the fact that I have to replay the same fucking mission when I'm progressing onwards in the underworld. I'm having to repeat the same missions for 7 or 8 times in a row, as if I'm fucking farming there. I'm not farming, I'm just going through, and the game repeats the same mission for like 5, 6, 7 times with the same position of enemies. But also I have to... I just tired of throwing that fucking RNG dice. I don't want to throw, like, every time there is an item, oh, it has to go through the 5 layers of our RNG roulette. And if you're lucky, which you will probably most likely not going to be lucky, you're going to have to repeat this stuff again and again. And it's so boring. And because the pool of the stats is so fucking huge, you just look at this and be like, yeah, I think my chances of getting something are just as high, quote-unquote, as winning a lottery. Although at this point I might say that winning lottery is easier.
Winning lottery is easier. Because you'll have more control over the ticket that you're buying and the dice that you're throwing.
Why is this game so fucking bad when it comes to RNG? And most likely, what ends up happening is the developers themselves didn't play it whatsoever. They didn't give a shit.
Did, but to
yeah,
an
with
extent,
cheat engine, yeah.
No, not really with the cheat engine, but like to an extent when they think that it is passable. And yes, the undeniable fact is that you don't have to have a min-maxed equipment throughout when it comes to items and weapons
you don't
to progress, but it is not an excuse to justify the level of bad RNG decisions that this game has. Like, you only have a control, like you mentioned, 12 hours trying to find Hayabusa sets. I was looking for
not just Hayabusa, I was just searching for something better.
I was looking for the last piece of grace. This is another like layer RNG that has to roll on a specific accessory for 26 hours, like non-stop. There was like 4 streams, 4 know, uh, 6 streams in a row. Like you can imagine like my level of frustration that I have experienced when I was looking when it comes to that level of RNG there. So yeah, like the only control that you have when it comes to the equipment and something that you can temper manually is the base stats. But the problem is the base stats are, while they are effective, no doubt about it, they are not powerful, not even overpowered by any way, shape, or form compared to something that could be dropped, that could be had or acquired via star effects or by very rare stats like increased damage to, like, let's say, Sign of the Cross. Or there was a stat that one streamer had, which I haven't had this stat for 250 hours. He had it on one piece of equipment, and it says like animal hit. Animal hit, holy freaking hell, animal hit. Like, can you freaking imagine, like, combine this stat with a build that utilizes high anima generation? That's insane. That's how insanely strong those stats are. But of course, there's no like control over it. And yes, those people who are trying to justify it by saying, "Oh, it's to prevent one-shot builds." You can prevent this by having it to have a low amount of percentages compared to slightly higher than base stats, but not too high, so that to the point that it becomes overpowered.
And again,
that's it.
Preventing it is the high, mighty word to say, considering the fact that base stats such as like ninjutsu power, ninjutsu, like untouched ninjutsu on your magic, untouched on your magic, can be rolled basically on blacksmith, and with combination with graces that would boost your magic or ninjutsu power, you're going to create pretty much, here's your fucking one-shot build. So it's a stupid excuse in my personal opinion.
Well, maybe not one-shot build per se, but quite strong enough. But like in my
yeah, it will only going to become better if you get also on your items like star effects of those like untouched magic and ninjutsu.
Like my problem is like with such an amount of extra resources that you never even gonna use, especially when it comes to end game. Why not include something that will allow a player to give to have control over to craft, at least to apply on a piece of equipment that he wants at least one star effect and one rare effect. Not from random list that pops up every time you select temper. No, show me all the list that I could have so that I can manually select.
But I mean, they even when crafting items, you cannot create, like, you can increase the probability of you creating a certain tier of item.
No, like it's super easy. Yellow. No, it's super easy to do. It's super easy to do. It's not.
But it's still like, again, so many items that you have, and most of the items, when it comes to like, we look at the picture from this big picture of craftable materials, that, like crafting materials that you acquire via like disenchanting and stuff. It's no point of having them. And I again mentioned Grand Blue today. Well, it's same there. Like, you have this, especially in the end game, you open your supply list and you see like, wow, I sure have a lot of stuff. How many of that stuff that I have is actually going to be useful? Oh, like 10%? Okay, then 90%. What do I do with them? Oh, well, nothing. Well, nothing. Well, here is the same. Like, you will do nothing with them. They will just be lying there, and everyone like, yeah, that's good. But we have a lot of stuff that you can acquire, only you don't have any reason to acquire them, only you don't going to benefit from them. Well, here is it. Like, here is your like reward. You get rewarded with what? What kind of use do I have for any of this? I don't know. Like, I don't know. That's why I said, like, crafting in this game and RNG?
Crafting equipment, not crafting in... Yes, you can craft in general. There is some merit of degree of liability. Not only sake, but some consumables item, like Clay Bell of Beckoning when it comes to summoning cats, or crafting divine
But I mean, it's,
crafting divine material
it's still
to create
10% from all of the possible, like, of those crafting materials that you can use.
It's not really about like the percent. It's like the fact that what purpose do they have? It doesn't. If you decrease and increase the percent, but you will still have it to. You will still leave it on the same level of it being irrelevant in the grand scheme of things in terms of your character progress, because it's easier to just randomly acquire gear and be more powerful instead of manually crafting
you cannot create ethereal equipment, which is going to be like your end game. Why can I not craft ethereal equipment? Or why can I not upgrade at the same blacksmith for using specific materials? Why can I not upgrade, say, for example, green into ethereal, or regular ethereal into ethereal plus? That would have been good. That would have actually been good, but no.
Yeah, but again, like, it's not only that, it has, they had to review once more the level of the RNG, both the level of crafting, the importance of crafting, the level of crafting, as well as the level of RNG on an item, if you want a player to actually invest any kind of significant time into it, you know what I mean?
I know why they didn't do it.
But, yeah, sure, because the approach, just like with combat, the approach is the same, like, you throw more stuff that creates artificial diversity and variety, true, and it has some value to an extent, but how good each and every individual element is, no, we're gonna leave it to the players to figure it out themselves. That's the approach. That's like throwing a lot of stuff there, but most of the stuff, it's just filler. Like, and you just create more. You just expand. You just expanding more like horizontally, other than vertically. That's the problem.
It feels like when they were developing this game, they were developing it when they were like they were trying to rush it, but at the same time, while developing this game that they were trying to rushing, they were also developing a next game at the same time, which they also rushed. Because
we're not gonna mention this happy chaos BS. That's not the topic about it.
I'm just, like, I'm confused. And it's not like people didn't say they don't like it. They have said it. They have said that they don't like the system of when it says, like, instead of numbers or percentage, that the game is writing you letters. They say that this is garbage. You never know how much is that, and they hated the system, which is Stone of Penance, Stone of Penance reward, considering like increasing chances of you acquiring items. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for ethereal items there is a 17% max increase chance of getting ethereal items. This percentage can be easily acquired without using Stone of Penance. But what's the point of Stone of Penance then when it comes to rewards? I don't get shit when it comes to rewards. This is why I stopped using it, because again, it was like, it's an increase in difficulty, but normally, what do you get for increase in difficulty? You get some kind of reward. In Nioh 2, you increase difficulty, you get 0 reward. You get 0 reward. Like,
no, if you're talking about Stone of Penance, that's the artificial, one of the artificial ways
but
to increase the
difficulty.
difficulty.
It is here for the reason, not just to increase difficulty.
Yes, it is just to increase difficulty. What do you mean like that? That's the, again, artificial means the, something that you're doing just for the sake of doing so, like just because you are bored of the original mechanics. Yes, I agree, I'm not trying to justify, I think Stone of Penance frankly sucks. I've tried it, I've built it all the way to 9+, never seen any severe difference in terms of ethereal items that I was getting. I have seen huge stat dumps when it comes to the enemy encounters and boss encounters, and that's pretty much
it. Just imagine, here's what you have, here's what you get for Stone of Penance. Starting from level 1 to level 5 of Stone of Penance, you increase damage of the enemies that are doing to you and their HP by 10%. On Stone of Penance 5, when you got to that 50%, further on till the Stone of Penance 9, the HP growth stops, so they're stuck at the 50%. The damage number goes up at the Stone of Penance 8, you get enemies do 80% more damage to you. And then, as the final pinnacle, and why I call this as a bullshit, on Stone of Penance 9, all of the damage that the enemy do multiplied by 2. That's what you get.
And HP is doubled.
No, HP still is the same, like 50% increase. Can you fucking imagine, like, having all this and having no reward in return? Like, this is legit something you will going to feel, no matter what kind of weapon and armor you're using, you're going to feel it. But you're not going to have any rewards for that. This is my point. Like, even in Diablo 3, when they added this Torment 1 to, like, 15 Torment levels, even there you saw, like, there was an increase in rewards, and there was reason to increase it even further because you were awarded. Here, why? The game is still going to... If we speak about Underworld and Depths, the game is still going to do practically the same, because the only thing it basically does in all those levels, and why there are so many, is to just stat dump them a little bit, little by little, just increase, and that's all. That's all you get.
So, I think it's also a good thing to say one thing we forgot about, like we jump from one topic to another, as the sideway discussion when it comes to progression. Returning back to the whole thing, we stopped at Way of the Nioh, but we haven't mentioned, like, whether or not you should complete Way of the Nioh entirely or just go straight into the Underworld.
I've completed it entirely.
I don't think it's
pointless.
I think it's pointless. I think it's not necessary to go unless you just want to have your, like, map completed, like, for one reason or another. It's faster, easier, and efficient to just go into the Underworld, start going through the floors into the Underworld and later into the Depths, for the sake of acquiring way more, not only the ethereal items, but also Scrolls of Nioh, and later Scrolls of the Damned that you need. And that's one other topic that we are going to be discussing, probably right now. That will severely boost up your character strength. You will have a way faster increase of your parameters, and you will have a way easier time to acquire and soul match your gear all the way up until plus 120. Of course, you also need to be focusing on the what you call this parameter that allows you to acquire more plus levels on your equipment, and later on more levels on the equipment in general. But those two should be your main focus over the other ones that will increase the utility of your buffs, as well as the amount of healing potions and how much health do they restore. That's all that it has to offer when it comes to both Underworld and Depths. But nonetheless, you will have way your power spikes will be way stronger, and you will have them way earlier than if you would go and complete missions on Way of the Nioh and then return back to the Underworld and Depths respectively afterwards.
I kinda agree, but my reasons for, like, beating initially, like, campaign and DLC and all the side quests and main quests was because since I was playing this game blindly, not following guides and stuff like that, I was mostly like, I wanted to see what is the difference between bosses, enemies, and what is basically changed from, say, for example, this difficulty compared to previous difficulties.
Outside of stats, nothing.
Well, yeah, because no new missions. Again, you have 5, like, besides first difficulty, you have 4 more difficulties. Was it so fucking hard to throw some additional missions in there? Various missions, like I've mentioned on my stream. How about, for a variety, have a mission where you use, like, some kind of a archery tournament. You use shooting with your musket, they call this rifle. How about having such mission? How about having like some form of a sprinting mission or something like that? about having like any of this, so that I would not have to just see the same thing. By the way, like the same. We haven't mentioned this, but do you know where the laziness of developers actually one of the places where it is obvious to the eye like immediately when it comes to like difficulty progression. So we know in some like later on in I believe like difficulty in New Game +2, +3, and +4, you start to get new enemies in certain positions.
No. You're wrong. You're wrong about that. Let me correct you. New enemies on certain positions are only appearing, and that's the crucial part. Starting from Dream of the Demon, only starting from Dream of the Demon.
Well, that's
until Dream of the wait a second. Let me finish. From Dream of the Demon, but their type as well as their position will remain unchanged, including Dream of the Wise and Dream of the Nioh difficulty. So the new positions and the new types of enemies will be the same on Dream of the Demon, Dream of the Wise, and Dream of the Nioh, respectively. If we're talking about the campaign, those are not gonna change. So you will face the same ones. It's not like on the 3 difficulties you will have different types. The level of RNG may vary only when it comes to, and level of the amount of enemies may vary only when it comes to cursed enemies, because they are entirely dependent on will they appear in general. They could not appear at all, and what type you will have to face, like the red one or the purple one. That's pretty much
By the way, purple ones, when you were going to be going through main campaign and stuff like that, you're practically never going to see them. And that's especially like bosses can also be of a different color, but you will almost never going to see them outside of like underworld / depths environment. And even there, they are quite rare. But laziness of the developers, and why I think that this is unacceptable. At least in main missions on various difficulties, you have those new enemies and stuff like that. When you go into side missions, everything is fucking same to difficulty number 1. Types are same, positions are same, like everything is the same, as though they were like, the people will not going to play side missions. Why the fuck would we even bother like making them difficult? Like let them have it. Like this, and I believe in the Twilight missions is the same kind of stuff. And I'm like, why? Do you like? Can you stop being so fucking lazy with this game? It's so.
No, it's like we have mentioned, like some steps forwards and a couple steps backwards all the time.
It's pretty much like obvious that, as I stated, like there was this pattern of them doing something good, taking a step back, relax, doing something decent, going back 3 steps, and so on and so on and so on. And I'm like, I was disappointed that after like completing the entirety of like the DLCs, the campaign, like everything, I haven't seen anything new, like anything at all. It's like some new missions, like please, at least something, like make it worth it for me, because if I would have known that there was nothing there, I would just went into the underworld straight away, because there I also played through the same fucking shitty missions again. Again. Yeah, again I have to play there, and like I played them in the main campaign, I played the same in the underworld. Can you have at least like homages or like throwbacks to Nioh 1? Put some missions from Nioh 1, like at least this way. It's also fucking lazy, but at least this way. Like no, like no, whatever. This is your approach, then my view on it is according to what I see, and I see bad things. Like that's my take. Like it was entirely pointless to beat main campaign and all of its DLC on the last difficulty, because the game doesn't actually give you something that you haven't seen before. And by the way, the gameplay basically, this is my kind of subjective opinion, but as a Kusarigama ninjutsu user with light armor, my gameplay hasn't changed whatsoever practically since difficulty number 1.
Yeah,
all
like,
of the skills and stuff like that I have acquired, the mechanics to how to approach certain boss battles and enemies, I've been using them in the underworld on New Game 5 Plus. Like seriously, like
yeah,
why?
like from the we also haven't mentioned this when it comes to difficulty and the progression in general, but the repetitiveness factor, the whole like approach of it being too repetitive in a lot of the cases, it boils down to maybe it's just the weapon problem, maybe it's just it's not only the weapon problem, it's the environment, but unlike other action RPGs per se, when you start up like in your earlier segments of the story and when you're going all the way up until your final build, other action RPGs have very limited stuff to the point of it being non-existent when it comes to how many options do you have and how your gameplay would look like compared to something in the end game. Whereas in Nioh, like I have mentioned before, if you like, let's say you were trying to use an axe and you're gonna be spinning with an axe even in the end game, or like I was doing the dual swords, like starting from the second difficulty all the way up until Dream of the Neo. Yes, there is a period of adaptation that I was overcoming when the tempo of fights had been increased, starting from Dream of the Demon and cursed enemies appeared. But other than that, I haven't changed anything too drastically. It stayed the same. It's just I was having more options, which is another like kind of running forward a bit. This is something that we will mention when we're gonna talk about the so-called tutorial mode when it comes to first difficulty, that
Yes.
you don't have on the first difficulty on the first difficulty you don't have as much options. And ironically enough, for me personally, it was the most challenging difficulties of all of those that I have completed, including Depths and Underworld. Ironically enough, it was the most fun and most challenging too. But returning back to the whole repetitiveness topic, repetitiveness element, I think it boils down to the fact that the game shows you like way too much way too early on. Like you are getting used to a lot of the stuff, and you are just mechanically you are repeating everything over and over and over again, but it also stretched to the point beyond
it's
belief.
very long, and here is the problem, like why it is so annoying. Like you may say, well, in other action RPGs that you mentioned, like Diablo 3, don't you run through the same maps? Compare the speed with which you actually are doing that in other action RPG games. You practically don't even feel like it takes you that much time. You just breathe through them. Try to do this in here, no, like it's always those like slow down a bit here, run, find the Jizokadama, get the buff, run to other side of the map, get another buff. Like you don't need that, you don't need to collect all of the buffs, but it's still so long. And it shouldn't be even like, there shouldn't have been 108 stages, but I mean, like,
yeah, the first
thank God that it's not like a first game where you had like 999 levels
That's
of
so BS.
Underworld. That's like, you fucking idiot who created this, like, you fucking idiot. Like, 999 missions after quite a fucking long game that you beat like 4 more times, you just fucking idiot. Well, they were saying, like, you put a ninja scroll, then you run towards some kind of analogy to Jizokadama, and you go into the boss room, but it's still 999 floors! Like, I mean, I got fucking frustrated and wanted to quit pretty much after like 50-something levels here, because I got tired of seeing, like, for the 6th time I'm going through the same mission with the same set of enemies, with the same everything. Oh yeah, really, I can't wait to see. Well, maybe, I was like, maybe in that situation it's going to change. Yeah, you got 2 new missions, and the rest is pretty much the same stuff, only the enemies have more stats. Well, yeah, okay. Thank God I actually didn't want more, because it's the same fucking shit that frustrated me in the Underworld, and in Depths it's also the same, and it's long. It's very long. This game is very long, unnecessarily long in many aspects. They could have split it out. They could have made it like, even with the missions that they had, to make it less but more meaningful on the other difficulties. How about like splitting a little bit of those side missions into various into various difficulties that you play, so you don't see this mission like up until you get to this difficulty, or this set of mission up until you get to difficulty number 4 or 5 or whatever. Like, there are so many stuff that could have made it easier and less daunting. It's daunting. This game is draining you pretty much on a consistent level. It drains everything from you, and not because it is hard. No fucking way. If you play again, if you play it normally, it isn't fucking hard. If you play it like a buffoon or try to impress other monkeys in that zoo over there that is called Reddit Nioh 2, like, if you want to impress them, it's your take. Go and do this. Like, they will surely going to throw shit in each of your attempts because, oh, this was done and it was done better, like, you cannot impress us. Like, if you play normally, it's easy because, well, not easy, it's okay when it comes to general difficulty, but it is still long, and it is still unnecessarily long. That's my point is.
Well, I think we should mention two more things when it comes to RNG elements, and that is the graces and the scrolls themselves, and their correlation to, when it comes to scrolls at least, their correlation or the necessity of you having them in regards to your stats. If you have it at 150 level or at the 100 or at the 2 or at the level of it being at the 200. So another RNG element that is heavily reliant upon your build, your characters getting more stronger, is the necessity of finding and combining something that you would want to have, like, let's say, your build, your type of damage, with the grace that functions or synergizes, that's the better word, synergizes well with your selected element. Now, the problem, there's different options from which you can get those graces. That includes the you running through certain floors of the underworld or depths, you having to have, again, if you're lucky, if you can get your hands on scrolls of the damned, I believe, with certain grace, like as a reward, you can farm it over and over again and get necessary grace. But the problem also here consists in the fact that even if you are gonna include the -1 set requirement, you need to have those graces to be the grace itself has to be present only on certain types of items. Otherwise, your builds are not gonna work. Like, it won't synergize, it won't be activating its synergy to the full extent if those graces are not present in certain elements. So that's another layer of RNG. Again, like, if you have missed like the previous thing that we have mentioned, like another collateral of RNG. Yeah, RNG hasn't stopped there. Another layer is the scrolls. Not necessarily the scrolls themselves per se, but more so the parameters that you will be looking at them. You see, there is like a hidden, quote-unquote, element, hidden mechanic in there, again, in the quotation marks, that says it, like in the first Nioh game, like ultimate constitution, ultimate parameter. What it does, it basically allows you to have an extra utility, passive or active elements for each respective ultimate stats. Well, for instance, when it comes to ultimate magic, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is something that you can use 2 mystic cards on when it comes to magic.
Both for magic and for
magic and for ninjutsu, for instance, like an example. But the problem is that, how should I describe it? Build in general will have, every build in Nioh 2, once you're maxing out your character, will have 3 to 4 parameters ranging from 150 to the 200 levels. So, in your best interest, you would want to have at least, like, one would be one. It's like bad luck in my case, and I believe my brother also had one parameter ultimate something. But you would want to have at least from 2 to 4, like, to be able to squeeze out the maximum amount of value from your build.
Not only that, some ultimate stats, like what you get for ultimate certain stats, when you get them to 150, that is, they're just like, wow, some really situational. Some of them are just like, you wouldn't even use those.
No,
Only
but at least some stuff that you would want to have, like you would want to have ASAP, like ultimate magic, or like in my opinion,
No, I believe
like
ultimate magic is not like it is not related to having to mystic arts activated. That's another one. It is different.
Nevertheless, like it's not necessarily that those stats are bad. Like overall, it's the fact that for certain builds they are. They are like how should I describe it? Not necessarily mandatory, but the power spike that you are getting from them could be like could put your build like on the next level. For instance, in my case, I haven't had ultimate heart, which would have sped up my key regeneration passively and actively when I was doing my key fluxes, which would have allowed me to pressure my opponents even more. Same thing goes for, well, I had ultimate constitution, it's gonna allow me to passively heal myself. Whenever my health it stays at 70% or above margin, which makes also every damage over time effects practically worthless against those types of character, because the healing amount exceeds the amount that your character receiving in terms of damage. Something like that. But again, it's RNG dependent. I personally haven't. I have seen and I have manually cleared like more than 40 scrolls of the Damned. Maybe it's not much, maybe it's not. I haven't cleared the scrolls of the Nioh at all. Have cleared like manually 40 scrolls of the Damned. I have seen only 2 ultimate parameters. Not for me, of course, but luck. Like there was some ultimate dexterity, I believe, like an ultimate strength. On one of those scrolls, and yeah, like that's pretty much it. I haven't seen any scrolls which would have like 4 ultimate parameters, and I've played this game, well, in regards to the end game, that is at least more than 60 hours, and that including like the depths and the underworld.
It's also about the scrolls that you have to understand. I'm speaking about not Scrolls of the Dam because I haven't reached those, but when it comes to Scrolls of the Nioh, you have always going to have like 2 locked stats, which you cannot change them. So this is again, welcome RNG. 2 stats are going to be randomly given to you, and you can see them, like you can at least see them. However, you have those question marks. And you have attempts to clear those scrolls. Those attempts can be resetted. You don't lose an attempt even if you die. So that's kind of sad at the same time that you don't lose attempts when you die. But when it comes to like the fact that you also have to gamble with RNG, basically you go into the scroll. You have those 2 stats locked. They might be shitty, or one might be good, one might be shitty, and you're going in. You have like 4 lines for 4 stats with question marks, and you go in there, you defeat whoever, like bosses, enemies there, and voila, the game shows you like what was behind those question marks, and it is random again, absolute random. And to change some of them, and well, keep in mind, you change one thing and you change the other thing. So one thing you can change for what you want, but the other stats will going to change as well. So it's not like, oh, I got those 4, so maybe like I can reroll each stat separately. No, because when you reroll 1, you reroll, like, you can choose from what is being given to you from options, but the other stats on the same scroll are going to reroll to something random. Some may not reroll, some will reroll. And keep in mind that those 2 predetermined stats that are right on top are going to stay the same. So it's RNG, it's another item. It's basically, this scroll is another item, as you can see there, like Scroll of the Nioh. It's another item that follows the same progression structure of being random. Randomly drops, has a random enemies in there, random bosses, has random predetermined stats, has random stats that you can get from the first try, has absolutely random stats that you can get from you trying this one over and over again till you roll for the stats that you want. It's another one of those daunting process. Again.
Yeah, like, you have pretty limited control over it. One thing I could say, like, as a positive, I don't know if it was present in the first game, but at least the option to farm a specific grace from scrolls, it's more, it's better
Scrolls
than to...
were not present in the first game.
Neither? Not Scrolls of the Damned or Nioh?
Scrolls is I believe it's a new one for this.
But how about well, just for better context, we at least I have played first game up until the Dream of the Demon, so I haven't tested or experienced any of the endgame stuff. So in regards to the scrolls, at least a positive thing that I could compliment is, again, like, one step forward, as we have mentioned, as the ability to farm specific grace from scrolls. That's a good thing, but again, like, the amount of other stuff that you have to deal with it and have next to no or pretty limited control over it kinda overwhelms the whole enthusiasm, right, behind you trying to actually make your character stronger in a legit way, relying on your own strength, time, and effort. That's what I wanted to share.
No, scrolls were present.
Yeah, like,
they were called differently.
Well, regardless, that's our, like, 2 cents when it comes to the scrolls.
It's still RNG hell, so be ready for some more exciting rolling roulette.
So, all in all, what we could summarize when it comes to RNG in general, with overwhelming mass of the new parameters and stats, and how much of them you have no control over it, versus something that you have control over it, but the value that you can squeeze from it is not even comparable next to each other in terms of the strength and efficiency. I say that the RNG in Nioh 2 is the one of the worst, next to the story, maybe, like, on the second
worst.
One of the second worst thing that we have a lot of players.
In terms of you can skip story, but you cannot skip this bullshit.
Yeah, at least you can skip story.
So this is the worst.
Maybe RNG
this is the fucking worst. This is the worst enemy of why this game fucking sucks. And
in terms of progression.
Yeah, this is because you have no control. Like, it shows, like,
very limited
with how many options you have. You might be thinking, like, I have blacksmith, I have scrolls, I have this, I can drop items, like lucky drop accessory, armor, weapon, like, maybe it's so good. No, like, because you can drop stat, you can drop scroll, you cannot drop fucking what is on it. What is on it is entirely random. Unless, like, some are predetermined, like imbue corruption, imbue fire, imbue other status effects, like, yeah, those are predetermined, but rest is just so random. Welcome to the random city, boys.
Yeah, we already made an analogy, like my brother did it in English language quite well. I'm gonna do the same, but for Russian language, with respect to the other games too. He made reference to Diablo 2. I'm gonna make reference to the Grim Dawn. Nevertheless, RNG, even though it received a little bit, like, tiny teensy winds of bits of the quality of life changes, that being tempering process, that not the tempering, but the remodeling process, and the fact that you could have the ability to soul match certain types of weapons. If you have this arrow points out this transferable inheritable effect, arrow points out on the star, some of it you can actually fuse it together to interchange or to replace your previous inheritable effect, which wasn't present in Nioh 1. Yes, that's objectively good, excuse me. But what is objectively bad is every other crap that we have talked about in regards to the RNG. Like, there's this overwhelming amount of trash that should not... You, again, like, just a summary. Random, if an item drops or not. Yes, you can manipulate to your needs, but random, what stats it will have? Random if it have a star effects. Random if it have a certain amount of star. If it have a star effects at all, or a certain amount of it. Random if it will have parameters that you need to begin with for your build. Random if it will have rare parameters that you cannot get otherwise by tampering at all, like legit at all, like the stuff that I have mentioned before, like animal hit, holy freaking
yeah, you need
hell.
parameters like purple color parameters, even some inherited orange parameters are not there.
Like that, like
not being able, not being personally in control of the fact that you cannot change, like you cannot inherit whatever the stat you want, and the game will not going to tell you how exactly, like what exactly it is.
In regards to the, that's when it comes to summarizing RNG. Like we as well as the as well as we personally, as well as other players who are dealt with this game, commonly believe that's if not the worst, that's one of the worst elements when it comes to character progression. Progression in general and difficulty. By the way, I forgot to talk about this at the beginning. So in Nioh 1, you could not skip that. Apparently in Nioh 1, that's the one of the Discord users have talked about this. You cannot easily skip or go over through difficulties that easily compared to Nioh 2. So in that regard, I'd say it's a more positive change from the Nioh
one thing still hasn't changed. Let me actually say like one thing that neither was in the first Nioh and didn't came into the second Nioh, which kills off the mood to create secondary characters. This game, being an action RPG wannabe, doesn't fucking have a shared stash. Can you believe that?
It's not about the shared stash, or just the ability to transform items.
Every time you create a new character, you start from very beginning with 0 scrolls, with 0 boss skills, with 0 anything, and there is no way to give... Like, you've been farming so much on one character, you thought, like, my journey on the second character is going to be better because I can give him, like, this item, and he is not going to... No, you still have to go and collect all of the Kadamas, which is a fucking nightmare again, which is going through all of the missions again, searching for those green little assholes. You still have no... Like, you have to... If you want to use some certain boss skills, you have to farm them again, you have to farm the items, you have to farm the recipes, all of those items, like, again, what action RPG, like even action RPGs from very fucking over, like Diablo 1 had give item to another player. Diablo 2 had, despite like having no shared stash, you could still transfer one item from it. Like, you have a multiplayer here where you cannot give item one to another. Wow, yeah, so good that you are going like toe-to-toe with modern, being modern.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not necessarily about being modern. It's more so being stupid. The idea behind it, the reasoning behind it baffles my mind. Like,
it's
why?
Like devs are seriously, most of the devs or those who make decisions are like, nah. Like, I'm not playing. You don't have to play games in order to create games.
It's not only that. It's like something that you would consider to be a no-brainer. You know, a game where you create multiple characters that heavily intensifies farming and progressing through acquiring vast amounts of gear, forces you basically to start all the way all over again, as if you're playing from scratch, as if you have manually deleted your saves and then you're on a fresh account, which is stupid in my opinion.
Keep in mind, like, it's another 200 plus hours of unbelievable random bullshit experience. Say, for example, you were lucky on your main character to get some items that with good stats that are very rare, and you got lucky. You cannot give them to your new character. That new character also has to do it. So instead of creating a new character, what you end up going to be doing, for the most part, if you're into like more into the late game, you will be switching items and
create new appearance, switch items, and go for a new build.
Yep, because there is no fucking point in creating another
and it's gonna be faster
character
too.
Because technically, again, everyone is being like, no, that's about like that's about you passing that first difficulty. It's it's a no-brainer. It's a training mode and stuff like that.
It's not only about excluding this training mode shenanigans, like the absence of the.
I'm just baffled at this simple feature for an action RPG game with a ton of loot, with such a random progression on items, and it's still like. Seriously? And you tell me that no one actually asked them ever since Nioh 1, could you add a shared stash, please? Could you add a loot filter, please? No, it's like, nah. Goes in one ear, goes from the other ear. And nothing stays inside of their head, outside of like snippets, like, people didn't like dual bosses. You're gonna have like 2 situations where you fight dual bosses and that's it.
Well, the dual bosses dilemma, I don't like both the Nioh game in general.
Yeah,
Nioh
because
1
it's a
and
complete
Nioh 2,
cheese.
I think it's trash. The combat, it's not very well suited to fighting.
I was fighting dual bosses without slot or lightning talisman in Nioh 1.
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of fucking experience did I got? It was fucking travesty. It's wasting hours and hours on dying on Nobunaga and his wife. It's like, whoa, my god, this is just annoying. And it was first difficulty. Like, I remember I couldn't even defeat in last DLC, the Fox boss, the Nine-Tailed Fox, and when she is with with that other guy with dual swords. I couldn't beat him because, like, fuck this shit. Like, with one I'm fighting face to face, the other one is sniping me from, like, across the full screen, and I have no way to debuff them. Like, I'm fighting them. Yeah, I'm fighting them legit. Like, fuck this. This game is not done to fight legit. Seriously.
Yeah, like, basically the summary of, like, being progressing through the difficulties in general and progression, how's it done, like, through the equipment and so on and so forth. It's, again, it received some positive traits, some positive things, but
ramp up the RNG to the new level.
Again, like, yeah, no, just the progression itself, like, in general. I think it could have been done, excluding the RNG. We're not talking about, like, in summary, about the progression through the difficulties. In my opinion, I think they could have gotten away with the game having 3 difficulties, but way more content inside those 3 difficulties, and a way to reward the player more significantly if they would not, or punish those, reward those who were willing to dedicate their time and complete the game fully, at least for the first time, and punish the ones who were willing to skip through the content more severely. Because right now, if somebody is gonna say to you, like, say it in the face and say, oh, this game is gonna punish you if you're gonna rush it. No, it wouldn't. Not for me, who played with heavy armor, not for my brother, who played with light armor. And keep in mind, we were not abusing or using the strongest options that the game had. Neither of us used the strongest options or the strongest, like, things that exist in this game. And we still, like, from our experience, it wasn't a super punishing thing. So all in all, it's not so irritating and aggressive compared to RNG that you have to deal with, and room for improvement had been and improvements have been done. But I believe that there is still, like, a thing that they could have implemented in any of the possible future sequels to make it worthwhile, in terms of to make it more saturated with a lot of the stuff being worthwhile for you, actually, like, playing through the entirety of the difficulties and not skipping the content in general. With that said, we're gonna move over to the final thing that we are gonna be discussing probably for today's stream, and that is the endgame. Now, few words about the endgame modes. Again, it's not a super detailed description, it's more so about, like, the recap of what had happened both to me and my brother. Now, from the point of view of the difficulty, endgame mode, and the including Underworld and Depths, excluding BS that's called Stone of Penance, I have talked about it, it's not even worth it
Yeah,
if you
those
are
two
seeking extra challenges.
Yep.
We're not gonna talk about like Stone of Penance. It's just for the sake of extra stat dump. But returning back to the whole stat dump idea, in general, going through the levels of the underworld and depths from one point to another, it's mostly a stat dump. Like, there is only one unique feature, which I'm gonna talk about later. Hold on a second, I'm gonna refresh the footage that you're seeing on the background, just from here. So, outside of this one feature, it's mostly a stat dump. It doesn't have any, outside of several unique features, mostly a stat dump when it comes to enemies and bosses. What are those new features? Well, unique feature number one, once you're gonna go to the underworld and depths, you will start collecting additional resource, Court, Underworld, Lapis Lazuli. You will spend these resources for several parameters, that being increasing the number of plus value on items that you will collect, increasing the levels of items, which I already mentioned. It's the de facto one thing that you should rush for as fast as you can all the way to the maximum level. Then you can increase the potency of those buffs that you will get from Jizo Kadama, like
Which
increasing
again, I am going to insert my 5 cents into this. Again, increasing buffs. The game doesn't explain you how much do you increase buffs. It can be like, again, it can be like just adding per level +5 to, say for example, attack gives you +5 more. It could be also +5% more. How do you know it? The game doesn't even want to tell you.
Yeah, pretty much. But returning back to the whole thing that you can spend your Lapis Lazuli on outside of buffs and increasing the plus value of an items as well as levels of the items, you can have more healing potions, and those healing potions could heal you for more health. And the most expensive upgrade the unique upgrade that, as well as the most expensive one, is to have more ideal items in general to increase the amount of it, which I have spent it like I had 10 levels out of 20, and again, I haven't seen any like severe difference, but whatever. That's one unique feature. The other
because
unique
you probably
feature,
hit a cap.
The other unique feature would be, yeah, maybe. The other unique feature would be that you will start to face, from level 1 to 10, you will face one boss. From level 10 to 20, you will face two bosses. Not at once, and in a row. You defeat one, the second appear after a short delay. And from levels 20 to 30, I'm talking about depths. I'm not talking about Underworld. On the Underworld, 108 level, you're gonna fight only against one boss. So in the depths, there's that unique feature, and when it comes to another unique feature that is present both in the Underworld and in the depths, that's the treasure room. Like, randomly, after a certain completed levels, you can have treasure room, you go there, you will have massive rewards loot-wise and Lapis Lazuli-wise. That's pretty much it. Outside of that, I take that back. The only one unique thing that I'm gonna talk about right now, at least at the beginning, it's the way how enemies are placed on the maps and the types of enemies. You see, when I was reviewing backwards, like my experience from Dream of the Strong all the way up until Dream of the Nioh, or Way of the Strong until Way of the Nioh, I was dissatisfied with the fact that on maps that I have already completed, the enemy types were practically more or less the same, excluding the appearance of the cursed enemies, starting from Way of the Demon Difficulty up until Way of the Nioh. Now, Underworld as well as Depths have a unique spin on it, that being the amount of enemies are way bigger than compared to everything that you have seen in the campaign, including main missions and Twilight missions. As well as their placements is more trickier, to the point where you could see like certain in certain times creative ambushes, or points when, like this, for instance, when they're crisscrossing you, one shooting from one side, the others from the other side in the main mission and in the secondary mission. Even in Twilight mission in this place, there is no such thing. Excuse me. Also, it has the higher chance of spawning cursed enemies. Excuse me. In those type of missions, like red ones and purple ones. Sadly, not including bosses. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but out of 108 levels of the Underworld and depths included, I haven't seen any red colored or purple colored boss. Beats me why that happened, but it is what it is.
The moon did not align properly.
Yes, that's when it comes to general stuff that I want to say about the endgame. Now, the problem with the endgame, after a while, after you've played certain levels of it, is that it gets pretty too repetitive too fast. Like, let me actually elaborate more on that from my perspective, and then my brother's gonna share his point of view. I have manually cleared 51 or 52 levels, the initial 52 levels out of 108 in the Underworld. Why I have done that? Well, I was thinking back then that if I would have skipped over content, I would not have enough resource to actually get those upgrades, like upgrade those parameters that I want, like plus value modifier and the level modifier, as well as the buffs, to the desired stages before I hit depths or during the initial stages of the depths. I was thinking that for that I will be severely punished. And moving forward, it wasn't the case, but back then I thought like it was like super necessary. I mean, that's the end game after all. Like, what are you gonna tell me? I could easily skip some parts of the end game and be completely fine. Yes, it turns out that's the case, and not only that, but
people
when I
were
played...
skipping those missions in Nioh 1 as well.
Yes, and not only that, but I didn't know about that. Like, that was my first time when I got acquainted with the end game and with all of the
we played this
features.
game blindly, without having much of an experience in how the end game was in Nioh 1.
Yeah, true. So returning back to my points of my ideas or my thoughts. When I have completed, like, slowly but surely, boredom starts to kick in, and yes, objectively, you cannot say like the boredom is like something that you could analyze objectively. Subjectively, yes, but objectively, the game repeats those stages way too much, to the point that you will memorize the placements of the enemies.
Way too much and way too early.
Way too much and way too early. You will memorize the placements of the enemies, even those new ones, except for few selected cursed enemies that might appear randomly. You will memorize the optimal strategy, how to defeat them in the fastest way possible. And that's not saying any good things, especially knowing that you will have also 58 levels ahead of you, as well as 30 levels from the depths. And in the depths, that's the same thing. That's the freaking same thing. In my opinion, like, why in the second half of the Underworld, I rushed from the level 50 something, 51 or 52, all the way up until 108. Was I punished for it? No. It was, I basically ran and grabbed one buff, and I had went straight for the boss. I just wanted to unlock depths. Now, the depths themselves, I have completed fully. From the level 1 up until the level 30, cleared everything on the map. Now, was I really, like, how should I put it, satisfied in terms of how the variety was in the depths versus the regular Underworld, or how the types of enemies were a bit different? No, not really. Objectively, it stayed pretty much the same. There was only few maps, few unique maps from the DLC. Like, I have seen one map from the, like this, in this instance, not this particular map, but from this DLC, I have seen a unique map only once or twice out of 138 floors. Same thing goes for one map from the Last Samurai DLC that I have seen in depth. I was going through the same levels like for the 7 or 8th time. And that's saying something that's when it comes to, at least when it comes to lack of any significant variety in terms of the enemies. I wouldn't mind to have the same stages, but at least change enemies every like 20, if not every 10 floors,
positions of
or every
Kadamas, Jiza Kadamas. Change positions of those situations where you get in some form of a trap. Like, change those things, like at least put some. They do sometimes put a form of like a mini boss from a dojo mission or from some DLC. Like,
but it happens few and far in between, like those places.
Yes, and it's. And by the way, those are also like versions of those guys, like those mini bosses from dojos are significantly weaker than themselves from the dojo because, again,
well, in the dojo you fight them with the wooden stick, like.
No, it seems like they lose some properties, they lose some abilities.
I don't know about that. In my opinion, it's mostly the fact that it was way too repetitive, way too early. Both objectively and subjectively. Like you cannot look me in the eye and say, "Oh, it's so fun to complete the same freaking mission 7 or 8 times, not in a row, but over like the period of 2 to 3 hours, and you memorized already the 80% of the enemy spawn, what type of enemy are you going to face." And the only thing that might change is the loot that you'll get from them,
the boss in the end,
and the boss at the end that you'll fight at the Crucible. If that was the case, then why just not to include like the boss rush mode or the ability to skip a stage entirely without receiving any boss? Just go straight for the boss. And yes, in depths, ironically enough, in depths this thing was present. But like I've told you before, I have completed everything in depths, like in terms of maps, cleared them entirely, like from start to finish, just to see if there was any significant difference versus the underworld. Like if it was really worth it and necessary to clear everything. No, it wasn't. Maybe like if you want to include the discussion of, okay, you want to have Underworld Lapis Lazuli to upgrade your buffs, and 4 buffs against those bosses if you want to fight them 3 in a row. But that's pretty much the only exception. In terms of the variety of those maps itself, like the general enemies that you are gonna fight there, and the way how they place it, it's too repetitive and too prolonged. That's my take on it.
Definitely want to upgrade buffs where the game doesn't even tell me how much those buffs give. This is like... This Nioh 2 is not the only game that is having this flaw of just like being too lazy just to send you to read wiki page for base info. Like I'm speaking about like base info, just how the... It's more like, what if the next step that they're going to go is just like, here's the name of a skill, if you know how much damage it does and how it works, go to wiki, read the information there. That's like how I view this. I fucking hate this because you technically don't... Like, I would be okay if this was like extra tips or extra information about this stuff. But I really want to know values. I want to know values of... Maybe it's so shit, it's so small that it is pointless to even spend. Like, again, we spoke about bosses' skills being like sometimes being a waste of time and effort. But here, like, increase buff for how much? How much it gives me? Why do I need to look for that in wiki, on wiki page, like, or ask this base information somewhere else? The game should provide it. But nonetheless, my view on the underworld starts interesting. You see those old missions, but you see like the new enemy's position. You don't know like what you're getting yourself into, because like I didn't know how it was a new one. I didn't know how it would be new too. Like, so I go into those missions, I see like, oh, it's an old mission, maybe there will be some new missions. Like, okay. So, like, new missions, not new missions that I already have cleared in the campaign and they just put it in this, but even this is like, out of all of the missions they could include, they include like 15 missions and just kept on repeating them. But anyway, so there are enemies, no new enemies that basically, what I mean by new, and you have to like understand this, new. When I say new, I mean something that I have not seen before whatsoever, to justify that it is not just we put something that already was. So, for example, in Path of Exile, when you go into the maps and something like that, you see absolutely new locations, absolutely new enemies, like everything, like for the most part, is absolutely new.
Not even Path of Exile. As right now, I'm starting to remember. Wasn't there actually unique enemy elite monsters in the and bosses in the Grim Dawn when you're going in Shatterfell?
Yes.
Compared to the regular campaign.
And this is like, yes, this is the process of that will going to take more time and effort. But hey, you know what? It is actually worth it, so that I would not feel like, well, technically I'm going through the same stuff, only I'm being spawned in the middle of the map and trying to go for those Giza Kadamas, which, by the way, even when the mission repeat themselves, they don't change their positions. They're basically staying at the same positions, and every enemy stays at the same position. Everything is practically the same, except the boss in the boss room, but the boss room in the boss is also kind of, you know what, it's not random until you get to a certain level of depth. In the underworld, all of the bosses that you face are technically like the same for everyone. Like, for me it's the same, for my brother it's the same, it's for you it's going to be the same bosses that you're going to be facing, like on those floors. So it's not even randomized there, it's predetermined. But anyway, so I went into the underworld, and I was initially kind of excited because it's like more enemies, more stuff, and I was like, I saw those buffs, and I was thinking like maybe those buffs are actually helping me, until I actually saw that bosses, like not the bosses, but buffs are only working in the boss room, so they don't work in the stage itself, which is strange in my opinion, but okay. So I was going through it, I was leveling up those upgrades, I was like, I got to the treasure room, pretty much, and then, like 15 levels or something afterwards, the game threw in my face mission that I have already played before, and I was like, some seems familiar. Well, maybe they were going to change the enemy's position or add new enemies. I'm running and I'm seeing like, is this a deja vu? I have seen those enemies in the same position, in the same places. So Kadamas are at the same places. Everything stays the same. No more colored enemies. And I'm killing them practically with the same speed, and they do pretty much the same damage, and I'm like, wait a second, this is something wrong about it. And I'm going onwards, and I'm getting into more of those missions, and I see like, this one was already, and in the boss rooms, this boss was already. This is again something that I've seen, like, what? But like it was like, I played it in one stream and it was something like I have already played through those. Moving onwards to another stream, I'm going ahead in those missions, and I'm seeing the same stuff. Like, I'm seeing again same missions, the same enemies, same position, no, nothing new, nothing changes. Oh, I see, a mini boss from a dojo mission. Oh, okay, I killed him. And then again they repeated this same mission, and then this mini boss from dojo is not there anymore. And the same kind of thing, like, you get excited only like couple hours later to fall into boredom and into depression, knowing that again it follows the same pattern as going step ahead, 3 steps back. It's the same how I felt when transitioning from difficulty to difficulty. I was like, yay, I'm excited to test new difficulty. 1 hour later, I'm like, oh, but there is nothing for me to look for. And then onto another difficulty, yes, excited, new items and stuff like that, and then again, it repeats the same process. And Underworld fell into the same trap, only because it's the end game. I was like, I'm not going to forgive this, and I'm not going to tolerate this, and I'm not going to say that this is like, to me, if you would have shortened this, Underworld put like 30 to 60 stages, and then Depths like 15 stages. That's it. Like,
but made them unique.
That's it. Just make them unique. Or if you want like 108 stage, hey, you had Nioh 1 from which you took inspiration from. You had this game, right? How about, as an homage, take some stages from that game, enemies from that game, bosses maybe from that game? No? 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 You don't want? Well, I don't want to play your game either. Like, I don't want to...
No, bosses from the game, there were bosses from that game, like Samurai and to an extent...
Again, no. But it's so, like, it's taking like 10% out of the big, like... 108 stages. Could you, like, you didn't even took all of the stages that you could from the main game. You didn't even do
like,
that.
It's a joke.
Like, you had so many stages to choose from, but you've picked pretty much some of the main missions you've picked. Yes, you've picked them.
Yeah, some of them. Some is the best word to describe it.
But you even forgot that you had side missions. There is a ton of side missions. Grab them and put them in there. Don't repeat me everything I've seen again. I don't want to run through the Act 1 wooden forest for fucking 7th time in a row, seeing everything being fucking the same, seeing nothing new added. Nothing!
Hey, you were doing this in the main campaign too.
Yes, and after main campaign, like after like 100 and something hours in the main campaign, and then some more hours into the end game, and I'm saying the same thing, like, can this be less of a... We just didn't give a shit about this game for the most part. And by the way, we're also rushing a new game, so you be excited. Like, no. This is why people are struggling. It's like you struggle through very bad storyline at the beginning. Those who come here for story, they will going to hate this game and probably going to not even want to play DLCs. For the most part. And they will going to have no reason to go into higher difficulties. Those who play for difficulties, if you haven't played this since the start and are playing this now, for the most part, you are stuck with the fact that they are outdated. They are very outdated. There is no reason to stuck in there. There is no reason to farm for more items. No reason to farm anything like besides first difficulty and difficulty number 5. Like, there is this giant gap, and at this point they could have added like, guys, we know we won't going to balance them out, so we're just gonna put like this. See this button, like skip to next difficulty immediately. You don't have to even go into the next difficulty. See, like all of the difficulties are available for you. Just pick and choose whatever you want, because we're too fucking lazy to add something meaningful to those difficulties, so that you would have reason to replay it even when like this game is going to be like complete edition. But nah, not in endgame, not in campaign, like...
Yeah, like, you compare this type of... Okay, just to give you some perspective in terms of certain games following the same structure. We mentioned Path of Exile. It's nowhere near on the same level of depth, as well as the overall, like, the content and the mechanics about it.
Jeez, this game has like one end game mode and it fails to deliver.
With Shattered Realm, not including Crucible, but with Shattered Realm, again, I think Grim Dawn does it better, at least in terms of the speed and the value factor.
Yeah, the speed is also like... In this game, why it is also so fucking frustrating is the speed. It's so slow. Like, the combat is fast, but the game is fucking slow. It just feels like you are slowly, like, moving. I am playing with the medium speed weapon with light build, ninjutsu stuff, with purity, and I'm like, when will it going to fucking end? It's 210 hours into the game, and I'm like, oh my god, this swamp doesn't end. This swamp is so
Not only
long.
that, but again, returning back to the whole end game discussion and comparison, you can compare it also to last epoch that we have played, like the Monolith, and also new and renewed Monolith. Even back then, before it was reworked, I still consider it a better, in retrospective, I consider it to be a better version than it versus the trash that we have seen in the Underworld and the Depths.
Well, some may say, well, you're comparing this to action RPG game because
It is also actually
it's a Souls game.
It's
and
not
Souls games
it's
don't
not
have
an entire
endgame.
It's not, yes, de facto Nioh 2 has endgame. I'm not gonna deny it.
But how
also,
it is done?
Objectively, it's done poorly. It's done way too boring and repetitive. Even like you see the numbers of the main map that you are going through the main campaign, and how like 1/10 of it is used in the Underworld and Depth.
It's so funny when people
and
say
the other mission repeats themselves like 7 and 8 times.
when someone say like, oh, it's like in that game there is no end game, or in that game there is no like cutscenes and story. I'd rather have no end game and no cutscene than I'm going to suffer through Nioh 1 cutscene and Nioh 2 cutscenes and Nioh 2 endgame. Because how are you doing it is what matters. It's not like, well, we have it here, what more do you want? But how did you realize it? How did you put it in there? And how does it work? That's what matters. It's not just throw it in there.
So I personally would want to say that again, like it's getting way too like when it comes to endgame, it's way too boring, repetitive, and grindy for no apparent reason. With the factors that we have discussed, because of the factors that we have discussed earlier, like the highly dependent on the RNG. But yes, again, like even excluding that, the map themselves, the level design of those maps, the enemies positioning, and the fact that you can practically memorize everything, even you play even if you play through the first half of the Underworld, you already know by heart what type of enemy, excluding cursed enemies, what type of enemies you'll be fighting and what are their placement. And that's not really, it doesn't create any sense of like excitement when you're going through objectively, like what's there to be excited about other than, oh, I just want to get this like carrot on the end of the stick. But the journey through it, like, it's full of not necessarily suffering, but boredom. It's full of boredom and full of repetitiveness. Again, you had the whole you had the whole maps from the original campaign, but you use only 1/10 of it. Why? There were some memorable occasions. Why? You considered it to be not worth it of an inclusion? Because you have to keep in mind that those maps in the Underworld, they are shortened version. It's not a full-blown map, so they even reduced some of those areas. And because they are also reduced, and because they are repeating more times than they would want, that you would want them to be repeated, it again creates the sense of, oh, I've been here, I've done this before, will I ever do this again? Yeah, sure.
And if it's just for, like some people say, well, it's for the bosses, so that you can get to the boss. Well, if everything is all about the bosses, just put in
just do boss rush mode.
boss rooms.
Boss rush mode, and that's it.
I don't need to see those. Then I don't need to see those stages.
Ironically enough, here's the thing. Ironically enough, you can argue over it, and yes, it's done already in the depths. But to get to the depths, you have to go through the 108 floors of misery, as I call them, right? Because it's not like super interested or excited after you've done with the first half.
If there would have been 999 missions in this game until you reach the depths, would you play it?
No, I would have quit.
999 times, out of which 50 times you're going to see the same fight.
Especially knowing right now that the level of RNG in Nioh 1 was even more BS than in Nioh 2, no.
Man, this is like, I feel sorry. I feel really sorry for those who have struggled through 999 missions.
Like, admiration and sorry at the same time.
Because here's also the thing, like, this game feels that it drains juices from a player so much. I've played way more in such games like D3 and say for example Grim Dawn. I have not really, in reality, I haven't really felt like I've spent it so many like hundreds of hours into those games, like way more than in Nioh 2. In here, I'm like going into those streams, I'm like, today I'm going to see the same missions again. Like, what more do I need to be excited? Like, oh, maybe the RNG gods will going to bless me because I kissed their ass. Oh no, they didn't. Oh no, they didn't.
True. I agree with you. Like, even if you exclude the subjectiveness and the emotions that we are sharing, well, you cannot deny the fact that objectively, like, it's way too. Once you get to it, once you have seen, experience it yourself, how it is to go through it, you will start to realize that yes, we were telling the truth, and objectively, it's not really that well developed from the standpoint of it being. It contained a lot of variety and a lot of excitement in the later half of the stages, which is why my recommendation and in general my summary for you, those of you who want to experience it for yourself, of course, after this podcast is, or before that, no matter the case, you can rush. That's my recommendation. No, you should rush through the underworld and complete the depths, like map by map, because at least like completing 30 levels, even if you clear 30 maps like entirely and you collect necessary resources to upgrade your parameters that you need, like to improve your buffs, to improve your amount of healing potions, it's gonna be beneficial once you start fighting 2 or 3 bosses in a row. This is justified. But to clear 108 floors versus like clear 108 floors or maps, call it however you want, when those maps repeats for the 7 and 8 times in a row and you're fighting only one boss at the end, it's not worth it. And no, it's not gonna be, again, it's not gonna be punishable at all. You can go with both like light armor, caster, whatever, melee oriented or heavy armor. You will not, just like progressing through the difficulty, it's not going to be super punching. No, it's you. If you know the mechanics, if you understand how to play more or less effectively, you'll be having a much more greater time than compared to us, who were forced to grind through it like the entirety from all the way at the start, from start all the way up until the end.
To me personally, I also wanted to, like, why with this particular game I went so far, as if to see if someone was fucking lying when they said that, oh, go in there. Like, you know that quote from, like, old Mortal Kombat game about Johnny Cage speaking, like, go to the tournament, he say, and stuff like this.
It's gonna be good for your career, he
said. Yeah, so it's like, someone say, take a look at what they have, and yes, they have, but at the same time, my personal standpoint, like, I wouldn't have been so drained, so devastated by this game emotionally if I would have just stopped after the first difficulty. Yep. Because technically, yeah, there are some things that
objectively.
Objectively, there is something to like to get you partially excited, but you know that excitement is going to vanish after like a couple of hours, and you will be left with repetitive stages, with layers of absurd randomness, with repetitive bosses, with nothing unique when it comes to like combat-wise.
With little elements that could be named unique, that's the best way to describe it.
Like, to say that for some bosses removing the indication of burst counterable attacks is a worthy addition to add more spice to the difficulty. No, like, someone may say, well, in Souls games, in Souls games, you don't even have to play on those New Game Pluses. Like, I was playing Dark Souls 3, and I beat it. Beat the New Game,
No,
and I went into New Game Plus, so it was boring to me because there was like, here there is something to get you excited at the beginning, but only afterwards you understand that this excitement goes away pretty fast. In Dark Souls games, there is no excitement whatsoever to go into New Game Pluses because there are no rewards and practically everything stays the same.
Outside of stat dumps and some improved equipment.
But, however, replaying Dark Souls feels
on the first difficulty.
Yes, feels much more interesting because, again, more work was done with the stages in Nioh 2.
Level design, not the stages
level
themselves,
design
level
is
design.
so bad. Like, I'm so tired of seeing those gray corridors, empty locations with nothing, like pretty much no interaction with the environment. This is a sequel. Can I see improvement? I see downgrade. Where is the action? Where is the stage, like the castle siege? I want that, I want to see something like gorgeous looking, to see, I want more entertainment with the environment. There is no interactions with our environment are limited here. Like limited. four places, 4 types of interaction with environment, most of which are practically useless. This, in my personal opinion, it's lame.
It's not only about that, returning back to the whole, it's the level design. Yes, it's something to be noted in a more negative way from my point of view. It tries to be grandiose. It tries to be something that it's not in reality. That it doesn't have the means to do so because of the limitations of your character and the general of the enemies. Like, you always have those corridors, semi-open areas, and so it's nowhere near on the same level of Sekiro. Even though I don't like the combat of Sekiro, but at least I can say that, and the general combat mechanics of it, but at least the improvements over Soul series, Bloodborne and Dark Souls included, was way more beneficial in terms of the level design and enemy placement.
And you cannot say that it is, because it's a stage-based game. Again, this is an excuse. Stage-based game doesn't necessarily have to relate to the fact that the stages are also always going to be very narrow corridors or always empty locations. No, you have, technically, because it is stage-based, you have even more possibilities because, theoretically speaking, you don't have to worry about how each stage should interconnect between each other, and you have those transitions from one big area into another big area.
Not a stage-based game, but mission-based game.
Yeah, well, technically, you go into those missions, it's even easier because you're not tied to open world environment. You kind of have open world, but you have those small stages which you go through and you play through them. This should be easier. But again, I personally, I know why they went with this approach. I understand this, but I am tired of saying that, mentioning this same stuff over and over again. It's just how it is. And in my personal opinion, everything that we have discussed, actually, if you have been listening attentively, everything that we have discussed, except the story, follows the pattern of step forward,
positive elements, some positive elements over the first game.
Except story. Story always goes backwards, and what goes further, and it is really obvious, and it is really good in my opinion, and to that team I give a giant credit. Those who were designing weapons, armors, enemies, visual designs. Fantastic job. Fantastic job to those artists of those who were working on the models, on character creation tools and stuff like that. You did absolutely amazing job. Because you kind of carried this, the design of monsters are really, really good. They're really solid, and I like it. I like it a lot compared to like level design. Level design is just shit.
True. Well, the thing is that summarizing the end game, the whole stuff, whether it's worth it or not. Don't know how it was in the first game. I'm gonna say it for myself. Don't know how it was in the first game. I haven't played it myself there. I'm gonna analyze it from what I have seen in the second game. It could have been just like everything with this game. They could have done a much better job if this mode would have been shortened, and you can balance it out pretty easily by increasing the reward, but I digress. Nevertheless, not only shortened, but the enemy variety, the map variety, the enemy placements could have been done way better, even including endgame mode. Screw the campaign, like let's say, oh, it's all. Even for the end game, there are some questions to be had, so it could have been done much.
Yeah, cursed enemies could have had unique abilities or auras to buff
even their
others.
numbers could have been better. Come on, like you play. I don't know about you, but when I was playing through certain maps, even in freaking depths, which should have been way more harder from the standpoint of the enemy types and variety, the places where I previously had seen red or purple enemies, nothing. It's not like, oh, there is no red enemy or purple cursed enemy. Instead, here, like 4 or 5 white enemies. No, it's just emptiness. Nothing, like there's a chest or there's just emptiness. Nothing there. So it's not an even replacement.
For you to get faster to the boss. To those boss battles, even though
if you're gonna bring this argument there, my counter argument would be, why the fuck would I want to play through those maps where you with those enemies? Like, what was the reason? To farm Lapis Lazuli, I can cheat engine Lapis Lazuli and go straight for the boss.
If you are a scrub and you need buffs, you need to go through all this stuff to collect buffs. The true hardcores will going to use scroll and go into the boss fight immediately.
Hardcore players no. I'm analyzing. I'm not saying it's a complete garbage, but I'm saying that it could
be better, way better.
With just like with combat, just like with the RNG elements, just like with the progression system, I am disappointed that I see the potential that it could have been way better and motivating to not skip the content, to not skip the maps, to actually, at least on your freaking first, that's the most mind-boggling thing, that at least on your first acquaintance with this game, like, whenever you are playing for this, you know that there is something wrong, that whenever you're playing for this game for the first time and it's your blind playthrough, and you want to skip content. Like, that doesn't say well about the game, about any game in general, and about this game in particular. Like, if you are playing through any type of content, end game, mid game, early game, and you want to skip ahead, you know something is wrong. You know that if you tried your best, if you dedicated your time and effort, and if you invested your all into completing this game and it doesn't pays you back, not necessarily pays you back fully, but it doesn't pays you back in terms of excitement or reward, you know that there's something wrong. Like, give you the, what you call it, the points of reference, like why I personally like quit one of those games, like Red Dead Redemption 2. My brother had completed it fully on PlayStation 4, but I quit it after 51 hours, because out of those 51 hours, 80% of the time I was either riding on a horse or just shooting, like doing some random shit that I was not interested about. Yes, my brother was trying to convince me that all the excitement is like happens ahead of those 50 hours, but damn, that's a freaking long 50 hours intro, like tutorial, maybe.
I technically, yeah, it's like, at least there, like, I wasn't lying, well, most action scenes, like, and story kicks in pretty much there and then. But here, to say that, well, excitement waits for you in
at
the end on difficulty number 5 in the underworld. What excitement?
No, it's not.
What kind of excitement is there when you go through the same stages?
It's the same
with
guys,
the same enemies, fighting everything the same, and also rouletting on RNG to like make your character better.
because even the term that's used in the sentence, the excitement awaits you at a certain point, I think it's incorrect to say something like this, because it would be better to say excitement is a subjective thing. What could be exciting for one person is not an exciting for another. They could have said that the more is gonna wait. I guess we haven't talked about, but we should talk about this on the one of the next podcasts, like podcast number 4 that we would have, about like the fanboys and the white knighting or shilling this game is doing. It's actually doing this game wrong in our opinion, in our point of view, as well as a lot of the stuff like those new moves and such, whatever. Like that's the topic for another day. But just say if somebody said like this, at the next difficulty or at the end there will be new stuff. Objectively, there will be new stuff like this or that. Whether or not they're exciting, it's up to you to decide. That's one thing. But nobody's gonna say it like this. It's the same retards that will say
everything is exciting.
Whenever I beat the boss and I say, well, the boss is easy, just you wait for it till you get to the Dream of the Nioh. Okay, I crushed him on the Dream of the Nioh. Well, just you wait until you get to the Stone of Penance 9+. Well, I crushed him on the Stone of Penance 9+. Oh, just you wait until you fight him with no mind. That's the pathetic excuse.
Because here is the problem with those type of people, is that, again, there was like a Russian YouTube blogger who was like analyzing practically the same thing in with the community, but related to Bloodborne community. It's just that for like they have nothing better to do with their lives rather to just jump on other people who are getting through the game at their own pace, doing what they want. They don't feel like doing all those crazy nonsense stuff like killing the boss naked or using this weapon instead of this weapon because he already did this, this is already cliche, you should do this. Like, for whom? I don't play for you. I don't play this game for you, so shut the fuck up. I don't wanna fucking hear this. Like, to me, he was easy. I killed him like this. If I will want to kill him like this, I don't want to hear your elitist opinion about you haven't done this and you haven't done that and you shouldn't have used this. Why do you even tell me this?
It's not only about that. It's the fact
my brother kills Atakimaru. Here's what, and he didn't consider him to be like a tough boss at all. He compared him to the final boss from Sekiro. You know what the response was? That idiotic response. He's not the final boss. The fuck? Who the fuck cares? And you know what? Like, the final boss Atakimaru is even worse than the Atakimaru from the main campaign, and it's like that Nightmare Bringer, like, it's a complete shit.
Yeah, but he's worse because of the camera angle, so it's artificial difficulty. It's not
no. He's difficulty-wise, he is actually garbage. To me, he was like, for me, for example, he was garbage.
To me, he was... Okay.
It was not the case. He wanted to show, like, here is how I did this, and here is why I don't think that he's tough. What's your comment about, this is not even his final form? Yo, fight him on this difficulty. Fight him on the other world. Fight him using Soul of Penance. Do this and that. Do not use magic. Why do you use sake? Why are you doing this and that?
No, the thing...
Like, this is like, imagine the amount, like, how retarded should a person be to not say, like, congrats, like, to say some kind words, maybe say something about how he was beaten. Like, no, it's always that you're going to hear about all of your achievements, and if you're going to have some kind of an achievement, and you're also going to say that it's easy, they were going to throw a giant pile of shit in your face and be like, look at this scrub, he thinks he can join us. No, he cannot. No, but I didn't want to join you. No.
But the thing is not about that. Like, returning back to trying to After all, like today is not the topic when we're talking about fanboys. It's worth mentioning here just for the sake of it not doing the game justice, not doing the game wrong. For me, it's sad to see and analyze when it comes to objectively, both objectively and subjectively, the game's potential is wasted in a lot of the cases. The game has everything, even including this game engine, even including this approach. This game has everything for it to be, if not the best, but very good. From the mechanical stand, from fighting all the way up until the loot system. Even if you consider the de facto this game, it's not a direct Souls-like. It uses elements from Souls-like slasher and action RPG games, but it doesn't excel at neither of them, and it's sad because in order to and what do I mean by excel? It's not reinventing the wheel. It's like doing the stuff that was done already in a good way, just making your own, putting your own spin, putting your own taste, and testing it so that it functions correctly. That's it. It's the same. It's the same discussion that I have Final Fantasy versus World of Warcraft, like Battle of Exile versus Diablo 3. Just do and test the things that community and are good, and exclude the things that are bad. Do not just stockpile on another thing that a lot of people are dropping this game objectively because you stockpile too many of the game mechanics.
Yeah, and there is obvious disconnect between developers and the audience. Up to the point where you think, do they even listen to their players? Do they even listen to the community?
I don't think so. To an extent, yes, but only certain parts of it, like were again, like we talked a lot, and we have mentioned a lot about the combat being improved, the progression being slightly improved.
At the same time, stash has not been.
Yes, but.
Oh, one
I'm
second.
sorry. Just close the window.
There's the wind blowing, so yeah.
So, yes, the stash had been improved. Well, the stash had been excluded, but other things had been improved. But something had left unchecked or without any improvements. That's undeniable fact. And for me, it's just sad to see that the potential it's out there and nobody's trying to grasp it yet. And on this note, I personally think that's I'm gonna be like concluding today's discussion from my point of view. I'm gonna just share the few concluding words. First of all, do not forget that if you're gonna watch it on YouTube, do know that already sponsors on Patreon or those who support us directly on Patreon probably will have already the opportunity to watch next episode a week in advance. And if you're watching this on YouTube, do know that you can watch any of the future episodes in this podcast format 1 week in advance of the schedule before it releases regularly on YouTube. Again, that discussion was worthwhile. We had to let it out, so to speak. It was worth to analyze a lot of the things, and all in all, again, like I do not consider it to be a bad game, like a trash game like Cyberpunk or any other any other thing that come out like in the day that was objectively bad.
It's a perfect example of a game that
it tries to be. It has
something to offer, but doesn't deliver it to the point.
Doesn't deliver it fully, but it has on its own. It has the sad thing to say on its own. It has such a potential in every regard, but doesn't pushes it to the way where it should be in order for it to be excel. Which is why another hint when we're going to be talking about this fanboyism and White Knights, we do not agree that this game needs to be popular in the sense that advertised it in whatever way, shape, or form that we can, or just talk about it. No, in order for it to be popular, when the good games become popular, in not only the advertisements takes place, but also mechanically this game had to be good, because if you advertise something, and yes, I'm looking at you, Valorant, here, no pun intended, if you advertise something too much, but the mechanically game is subpar or trash, the backlash is gonna be insane to the point where people are gonna rip the game apart, like it's gonna be destroyed, like dead on arrival. So yeah, this is why I do not consider it to the need in order to advertise like to every living soul out there, like the supposedly greatness of Nioh 2. I think this game personally, I think this game is like slightly above average. It's done a lot of the things in a positive way compared to the first game, but it has a lot of room for improvement, and it needs to be done for the future sequel if the game wants to succeed, if the game wants to justify being a worthy successor of the Nioh 2. With that said, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Doesn't matter if you have to watch from the beginning, middle, or the end. We are appreciating every living soul out there who are listening to us, who are watching our videos live, or following us live, or watching our videos on YouTube. Thanks, guys, for all your support. You know, with in general, how you can support us too. Just as always, subscribe on YouTube channel, share the videos, leave a like to them. Also follow us on Twitch. Consider subscribing on Twitch and becoming a Patreon. All the links are in the description below the separate tab. In the separate tab below the Twitch player. Can also, I highly recommend for you to follow us if you wish to stay up to date with everything related to the future content, as well as watch exclusive content on your own. Follow on the Twitter page that we have, as well as Facebook. With that said, my name was Alexander, also Alexander. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you all on the next stream. I'll pass the word to my brother.
Thank you guys for being here today, for listening to what we had to say. Yes, those episodes are getting into ranty side a lot, but this is just like how the game is. This is going to be like how we are going to express our opinion. There are good things that can be said about this game, there are mind-blowing amount of bad things that can be said about it, because yes, the potential of this game is there, it's just that this game shouldn't have been rushed. There was no point for it to be rushed. There were good ideas, but unfortunately it feels like for every good idea, a step back, and a step back, and again, a little bit ahead, 2 steps back, and it just keeps on and on and on. And for, like, instead of evolving on strong points, it, for some reason, tries to be unique in its own way, which doesn't work in a lot of cases, and in a lot of cases it makes the game go into the wrong direction. But again, when someone gives such opinions like we do, for example, it has to be said from both positives and negatives, because like otherwise it will be how should I say this? Like, it would be biased if you only see good things and objectively there are bad things, and you just don't want to speak about them. This doesn't do you good. This doesn't do developers good. Developers need feedback, positives and negatives. So this is why, like, case something, those podcasts and some other stuff, like it can help to anyone, to a new player who wants to play this game, or to old player who also thinks this way. This would be really good. But anyway, guys, thank you for being here today with us, and we'll be seeing with each other next time when we will be going to discussing something else, something more spicy and something more interesting.